From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you. Bulletins on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Bev Turner. Thank you for joining us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Backlash mounts over Labour's flagship early prison release scheme.
Well, the new Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, is reportedly set to pause the plan after vowing to investigate the early release of the killers of PC Andrew Harper.
But why did it take PC Harper's widow blasting the plan as deplorable for the government to act?
And why has it taken just days for Burnham's number 10 to become embroiled in controversy?
Scottish Labour leader Anna Sarwar is made a peer by Andy Burnham so he can take up a job as business minister, despite previously calling for the upper chamber to be axed.
The first small boat migrants arrive in the UK since Andy Burnham became Prime Minister. Could Burnham's historically relaxed approach to immigration lead to a spell of illegal boat crossings?
A hosepipe ban officially enforced for millions of Thames Water customers as the economic cost of the heatwave is revealed.
Where would Britain be without the RAF Bomber Command? Well, today we pay tribute to the Air Force branch responsible for the strategic bombing of enemy infrastructure during World War II.
Is it wrong to judge people by the acts of their ancestors? Well, according to the actress Jamila Jamil, all Britons are evil because of the British Empire.
Because Americans think British people are so sweet, which is crazy because British people are truly the most evil people in history. We colonised the world.
Just the artifacts in the museums. I'm like, why is that not in Africa?
A very good morning. Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua are trading verbal blows as both fighters face tune-up bouts ahead of what's been billed as the biggest fight in boxing history, Britain anyway. And with the start of the Premier League just weeks away, champions Arsenal suffer a major injury setback. Find out more with me later this hour.
Yes, there's a little bit of light rain across some northern parts today and tomorrow, but further south it's staying dry. There'll be plenty of sunshine and some places getting above those heat wave threshold temperatures. Again, I'll have more details coming up.
It's just gone 6 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Ellie Costello and this is GB News Breakfast.
Listening to that clip of Jamila Jamil,
yes,
right, saying we're all evil, I get the impression she's just trying to be funny.
Yes,
but she's a controversial person. I know I've heard before she's got herself into a bit of bother.
Yeah, she's had controversial comments before.
Yeah.
It's not her first rodeo.
No, but
Jamila,
it's a bit of a stupid thing to say.
We're going to be debating it later, though. It's formed a good debate for us later on.
Mind you, Britain, we do make the best villains in movies. Don't we?
It's true.
Villains are always British.
They've got to be British.
We are
Something
very
about
good
the
at that.
accent is very, very good.
I mean, the idea that we're all evil. What a ridiculous thing. I think she's just trying to be funny, but it's still a stupid thing to say.
Yeah, we're debating that at 8:20 this morning, so don't miss that.
No, indeed. We're talking politics today, though, because the new Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, has reportedly paused the early prison release scheme following backlash from the family of PC Andrew Harper, who was killed back in, was it 2017? 2019. Oh, it's not even that long ago.
No. Well, PC Harper had been investigating the theft of a quad bike in the summer of 2019 when his killers attempted to flee the scene in a car.
Well, the officer was caught in a towing strap and dragged for more than a mile down country roads.
It's just awful, isn't it? Well, Number 10 is now reviewing the scheme after the officer's widow has branded it deplorable that two of his killers could be released early.
It was initially introduced, of course, to ease pressure on overcrowded prisons and had been due to come into force this autumn.
Well, let's speak to Theo Ushwood, news editor for Press Association, who joins us in the studio now. Morning to you,
good morning to you.
Theo. What do you make of all of this? Got Lizzie Harper saying this is deplorable.
She's right. We went back over the sentencing remarks of the judge at the time he jailed these two killers, and he was specific. He said, I'm sentencing you to 13 years in prison, and you are going to serve 2/3 of that sentence in custody. And that would take them out to, rough maths, 2028, 2029. And instead, we're now in this situation where we have this scheme, which of course is designed to ease prison overcrowding. They're going to be released as things stand. Well, now Andy Burnham has come in and said there's going to be a review, but they were due to be released, and Lizzie Harper had received an email, a letter from the Ministry of Justice to advise that she was going to be released. These two killers were going to be released imminently.
I mean, the whole point of the early release scheme, and look, I know that between a rock and a hard place when you haven't got any prison places.
Yeah, there's 3,000 spare at the moment.
Which is crazy. However, it was meant to be what you would call low-level crime.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? I mean, not that all crime affects people, but, the lower level sort of thing. Not for people who are in jail for manslaughter.
No, and I was listening to, I think it was the Police and Crime Commissioner for Thames Valley last night, and he was making the point that the problem with this legislation that's going through and due to be implemented is that actually what we're going to see is that it's just right across the board, prisoners, regardless of their sentence, only, the very most severe, the most severe are not going to be released, are going to be sent out, released from prison. And that puts, the question is for your viewers, how can they have confidence in the system, in the justice system, if people are being told they're going to go to prison for a certain amount of time and actually they're released much earlier? And, there is a case to say, I think there just needs to be transparent, a case to say there's transparency in the system where the sentence that is handed down by the judge, even if it's a lower sentence, is the sentence that's actually put into force for somebody. And then at least there's transparency and we all know how long people are going to go to prison for. But at the moment you have this situation where people are going to be released, in some cases 40% having served just 40% of their time in custody.
Very similar to the comments made by Lizzie Harper as well, talking about just that. The intervention by Andy Burnham, she says, not about politics, it's about justice. Is justice something that we truly believe in, or is it something that can just be negotiated away when it becomes inconvenient?
Yeah, and
pretty striking, isn't
it? Her words were very powerful. Her statement, and she's not somebody who speaks very often. I mean, this is the first time she's spoken publicly in 4 years, and I think we should all listen to her words because she speaks, I think, for victims of crime, whether they be violence. The fact that her new husband was killed, or those victims of domestic abuse or sexual offences. Many are fearful that now that they're suffering the trauma of the fact that the person who perpetrated the crimes against them are suddenly going to be back on the streets of this country.
Oh, dear me. Right, can we just, before we leave you, Theo, can we talk about Anas Sarwar?
Yeah.
Scottish Labour leader, going to resign from the Scottish Parliament, become a Lord, despite the fact he wants to abolish the House of Lords, just so he can get a ministerial job.
I think somebody's put together. I'd heard somebody put together a clip, a sort of reel of how many times Anas Sarwar had promised that he wouldn't do this, and it ran to about 5 minutes. Right. Labour's problems in Scotland have been, going since devolution. I mean, since 1999, the Labour have not actually ever increased the number of seats they hold in Holyrood. I mean, it's extraordinary. And for Anas Sarwar, he's obviously made a calculated decision that his career is better served in London as a minister in Andy Burnham's government. Of course, to do that, he'd have to be appointed to the House of Lords. And of course, the damage will be for Scottish Labour as it tries to fight the reform who are doing better in Scotland, and of course the SNP as well. And it's the danger for Labour in Scotland is because of this decision. It just makes it more of a straight fight between the SNP and Nigel Farage's reform. It should also be noted, finally, that of course Anas Sarwar was critical in helping Andy Burnham take over because he was the most senior figure at the time. He came out a couple of months ago and said that Keir Starmer had to stand aside. And when he did that, we were all braced for the fact that there could be significant resignations within Keir Starmer's government. Actually, it turned out that the only person to go at that particular stage was Wes Streeting. But he played a role, and obviously he's got his payback.
Yeah.
OK, Theo, thank you very much.
Now, from today, 10 million Thames Water customers are subject to a hosepipe ban following the hot weather.
The restrictions mean those affected are no longer allowed to use a hosepipe to water their gardens, wash their cars or fill up paddling pools.
Thames Water joins several other suppliers, including South East Water and Southern Water, who've already introduced similar restrictions.
Well, let's speak now to Director of the Climate Media Coalition, Donncha McCarthy. Very good to see you this morning, Donncha. What's your reaction to this?
Well, I mean, it's obviously something that we have to do. We've had the driest spring, a very dry spring ever. We now have 3 times more days over 30 degrees. The land is dry, and unless we take action, nature and farming will really suffer. So we need to take responsibility at home and at businesses for the amount of water we're using. The biggest thing we really need to stop doing is actually using sprinklers on our gardens. The grass doesn't need to be kept going all through the summer. It can go brown, and then when the rain comes, it'll go green again.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a fair point, but we all spend a lot of money on our gardens and we like to keep them looking nice. I mean, this all begs the question, well, begs 2 questions, really. Why haven't we got more reservoirs, and why are we not using grey water for this sort of thing?
Well, I mean, a lot of us are using grey water, and every drop from my wash machine and dishwashing goes onto my garden, so I don't have to use tap water. A lot of us gardeners are putting in rainwater harvesting. I think you make a point that's good, is that new housing should actually include rain harvesting and also grey water reuse. I've got a rainwater harvester on the roof of my bathroom. It's plugged into a tap in my bathroom. My WC runs off rainwater. I think that should be normal for every house across Britain, because as the Met Office says, we have already damaged the climate. Our burning of fossil fuels they said we will not return to the climate that Britain had in the 20th century. So we have to change. The thing about reservoirs is a very valid point as well. However, nobody wants their valley flooded, and that's why the government and local councils have been reluctant to move ahead with reservoirs, because everybody doesn't want the reservoir in their particular valley.
As we keep seeing this frequent hot weather, Donncha, do you think we'll just see hosepipe bans more commonplace in this country?
Well, it's becoming normal, absolutely, Ellie. The farmers are saying this is the 3rd crop now in a row, 24, 25 and 26, that were both extreme rainfall in winter and extreme drought in summer is actually damaging our crops. That is something that us climate campaigners have been saying for 30 years, is that the real danger of climate is food security. The Welsh Farmers Union have already said they cannot guarantee stable crops any longer. And this is a message twofold. We need to be more efficient with our water use. We need to put in water storage, but we have to act on climate much, much faster than we're doing at the moment.
OK, Donncha McCarthy, thank you very much. Good to see you this morning.
Thank you, Ellie.
Just want to bring you some breaking news, because the government keeps dropping bits of breaking news every morning, doesn't it, at the moment?
This week, yeah.
So this is the latest one from Andy Burnham's government. Pubs, clubs and live music venues are going to get a 20% cut to business rates So that should save the typical pub around £1,100 a year. Now, we know pubs were calling for a cut in business rates. They were also cutting for a reduction in VAT on energy bills. That has already been announced this week, that VAT on energy bills will drop down to zero. Now they're getting a 20% cut to business rates as well. So it is a significant move.
It is a significant move. And as you say, a number of giveaways being announced by the government this week. Does it mean that there might be a general election on the horizon? Does it feel like a pre-election giveaway?
Wow.
Just a little bit. Lots of giveaways this week.
Well, there's
£1 billion in spending already been announced.
Yeah, what we don't know yet, of course, is how it's all being paid for.
Well, yes. Well, we were told yesterday by Heidi Alexander that it's all funded, but obviously Darren Jones didn't agree with that, did he?
No, he didn't. He didn't. I mean, quite how they fund it, I don't know. Of course, the argument with something like pubs and what have you, and anything which helps businesses, is that you don't have to fund it for a very long time, because if it increases revenue and if it increases then tax take and all the rest of it, it in effect pays for itself.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a gamble, but that's the way you've got to do it. Well, it is interesting that after what we felt like sort of 2 years of stalemate, not much happening, all of a sudden we're getting these raft of announcements which are meant to make life easier for people.
Certainly got momentum.
It's got some momentum. Is it going to work out? We need to talk to some publicans, don't we?
We do. And we'll try and speak to a publican in this programme. We're also speaking to the government just after 9 o'clock, so we can put some of these questions to them.
Yeah, well, Chief Secretary to the Treasury, no less, so which is currently Emma Reynolds. I've completely lost... I mean, since I was last in work, everything's changed. So
all change.
We'll get across that. So she should be able to tell us how it's going to be funded and what impact they expect it to have on the economy, which is going to be the key to all of this. Anyway, coming up to 6:15, it's time for the Daily Reflection.
The GB News Daily Reflection.
Hi, I'm Richard England. I'm the Anglican Vicar of Crofton Parish. What's that old saying? You don't know what you've got till it's gone. One of the difficult things for us to acknowledge about ourselves is that we're not great at preserving the good. The good in relationships, in society, in communities, and in our natural world. We seem to have an inbuilt self-destruct button sometimes. When we have something good in our lives or our world, something in us just wants to hit that button, sometimes just to see what will happen. The Bible scholar Willie James Jennings once wrote, "Life together as a people is not a given. It must be won again and again from the things that would undermine it and drain it of life." What he's saying is that sometimes carelessness is what costs us the most, not realizing the value of what we have until after we've lost it. In the Gospels, we see that Jesus cares. God cares for us and our world. So learning to follow Jesus is learning to care for ourselves and others, for the good that's in our lives and in our world before it's gone.
And that's your daily reflection on this Thursday morning.
Now, let's have a look at some other stories heading into the newsroom at 6:16.
Gary Lineker has joined more than 100 British-based millionaires in calling on Andy Burnham to tax them more. A group of over 100 UK-based millionaires, including Gary Lineker, have signed a letter urging Mr Burnham to tax their wealth. They say, "We can afford it."
The US and Saudi Arabia have signed a landmark deal that will reportedly allow the Gulf Kingdom to develop a civilian nuclear program. It's described as a peaceful nuclear cooperation agreement that will provide great access for American companies in the Saudi nuclear energy program.
New research has found that weight loss drugs such as Mounjaro, Ozempic and Wegovy are linked to an increased risk of hair loss.
Right. I was going to give you another time check then, but it's only gone a minute since the last one. Don't want to overdo it, do I? Time for the weather with Alex Burkill.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good Good morning. It's time for your GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Now, for a fair few of us today, it is going to be bright and sunny at times, especially towards the southwest. But further north, there will be a bit of rain around. The rain doesn't look especially heavy, but a few outbreaks of mostly light, drizzly rain pushing across some northern western parts of Scotland and perhaps into the far north of Northern Ireland as well. Elsewhere, one or two showers can't be ruled out, but generally it's looking dry, with the greatest amount of sunshine across parts of central, western, southwestern UK. Here we're likely to see temperatures peaking in the high 20s, so the heat wave goes on for some places here. Further north, well, a little bit fresher with temperatures peaking high teens, low 20s, that sort of thing. Into the evening, there will be a few more outbreaks of rain across the far northwest of Scotland. These will edge a bit further south than eastwards as we go overnight, but across eastern parts of Scotland actually having a largely fine end to the day with some decent sunshine. A bit cloudier across Northern Ireland, can't rule out a few spots of rain, but for England and Wales, yes, mostly fine. A bit of cloud here and there, especially towards the east and northeast. Further south and west, holding on to those clearer skies for that little bit longer. Like I said, that rain in the far north does edge a bit further southwards across more parts of Scotland as we go overnight, with some of that rain pushing into Northern Ireland by the time we get to dawn tomorrow morning. But across England and Wales, staying dry and a fairly warm night for many places, temperatures holding up in the mid to high teens, especially in the towns and cities. The outbreaks of rain across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland, well, there will be a few more of them compared to today. A bit heavier, but still not a huge amount of rain for many places. Eastern parts of Scotland staying dry, and across England and Wales it's staying dry with a decent amount of sunshine, a bit brighter, sunnier than today across eastern parts, and here temperatures edging up a little bit with highs of around 29, possibly 30 Celsius. See you later.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Here at GB News, we made a promise to tell your stories. And on the 6th of August, we're marking 5 years of doing exactly that.
Celebrate with us by having your say. Join in the debates live on TV and radio.
And meeting your favourite presenters across the country, from Leeds to Aberdeen, from Belfast to Barry Island.
Plus, join me in Essex for our biggest live show of the year. Scan the QR code or visit gbnews.com/celebrate. Terms and conditions apply.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter? So that's a very live question. Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way.
You will not want to miss it, trust me. The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
It's 23 minutes past 6 and hundreds of guests are gathering in Lincoln today to mark 90 years since RAF Bomber Command was formed in 1936.
Well, Anna Riley is there to remember those who paid the ultimate sacrifice during the Second World War.
30 tons of aircraft flying at approximately 300 miles an hour. Those are the wings that will spread over Europe like an avenging sable shadow of death.
RAF Bomber Command. Formed in 1936, it led the strategic bombing campaign during World War II. 55,573 young men died flying in defence of our freedom. Their names line the walls of the International Bomber Command Centre in Lincoln. 9 decades on since Bomber Command was created, their sacrifices are being commemorated.
It was a very close-run thing in 1940 at the Battle of Britain. But the Bomber Boys started in 1939 and flew right throughout the war to 1945. And they made a huge sacrifice, they really did, in pursuit of freedom. Freedom not just for this country, but for the whole of the democratic world. And we should be very proud of what they did, and that's what we commemorate here. But we want to educate as well.
Lincolnshire was Bomber County. The region housed over a third of Britain's RAF Bomber Command stations and was the central launching point for the offensive against the Nazis. This facility features a memorial spire with the wingspan of a Lancaster to honour the fallen.
We forget at our peril, and probably more relevant today than at any other time since the end of World War II. Understanding the horror of war, the impact, the cost to life, the cost to your national identity is hugely important, because if we don't remember, then we won't learn how to make it not happen again.
Veterans past and present will be remembered at a special service here. Those like the last dam buster George Johnson will never be forgotten. The late RAF officer led the 617 Squadron RAF Bomber Command.
I enjoyed my war, particularly my operational pride, because I felt I was doing something against that so-and-so Hitler who was destroying our country, and we needed to make sure he didn't succeed.
The International Bomber Command Centre is a point for recognition and remembrance for Bomber Command. Today, tribute will be paid to the thousands of young men and women who served in the division during the 32 years it operated. Anna Riley, GB News, Lincoln.
Oh, it's just so important, isn't it? Those brave veterans are remembered.
Yeah, you can't afford to forget any of this. Otherwise, we end up back where we started.
Exactly.
Right, should we cheer you up with the Great British Giveaway now? It's a fantastic summer celebration of £60,000 in cash and a solid gold bar.
It's a great prize, isn't it? Here are all of the details that you need.
What would you do with £60,000 cash? What would you do with a real gold bar? Well, both have to be won in our Golden Summer celebration. First, there's £60,000 in tax-free cash to bolster your bank account this year. You can spend it on treats, splash out on the family, or just save it for a rainy day. It's entirely up to you. Plus, we'll also give you a fine gold bar worth over £5,000. That's genuine gold that you could gift to a loved one or just lock up in your own personal vault. The gold and the cash really could be yours. For a chance to win £60,000 in tax-free cash and a real gold bar, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls Bundles cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yes, good luck. Now, if you're travelling to work or school this morning, here's your traffic and travel update.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M27 between junctions 2 and 1 in Cadnam is closed. The A5 is closed after the A421. The M1 southbound between junctions 26 and 25 in Nottingham South is congested. The M1 northbound between junctions 34 and 35 in Osthorpe is closed. The A1M is closed between junctions 42 and 44. In Scotland, the A92 is closed in both directions between Paybroth Crossroads and Melville Lodges roundabout due to essential roadworks. And on the trains, cross-country services are not running between Torquay and Paignton, and East Midlands Railway services have a reduced service. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Now, do stay with us still to come. Got the sports. Aidan, what's coming up?
Anthony Joshua makes his return to the ring for the first time since the horror smash in December, which killed 2 of his friends, as he looks ahead to a super fight with fellow Brit Tyson Fury. Join me for more after the break.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Right, time for a bit of fisticuffs because Aidan's here. So we're getting into fight season.
We are indeed. It's called Riyadh season, isn't it? That's certainly the case with Anthony Joshua. He's fighting in Saudi. That's on Saturday. Now, before that, Tyson Fury has what's known as a tune-up bout. That's in Thailand at 4 p.m. tomorrow. It's not even on telly. So that's how serious people are taking it. But anyway, that's another story.
You can make money out of that.
Well, no, but
it's
it's not.
fighting.
Look, he's worth £300 million. I don't think he needs to make that much money out of it. But also the money he'll get later in the year for fighting Anthony Joshua. I mean, to be honest, this is a fight that should, Ellie, have probably happened in around 2019, 2020. I think COVID was around the time we should have seen it, but we just didn't because for obvious reasons. And the different state of mind that the fighters were in. In terms of Anthony Joshua, well, he fights Christian Prenga from Albania on Saturday, but he's been speaking just in the last couple of days about returning to the ring and how difficult it's been given the car crash that happened in December, which killed 2 of his friends in Lagos. The fight before that, I mean, it was only 10 days before that he fought Jake Paul.
Yeah, of course.
And, you know, he won that one quite comfortably. So I would question how much actual ring time he's had in the last couple of years, really. Not very much, but you could probably say the same about Tyson Fury, and that's why it was essential that to maintain the quality and the integrity of the fight that's going to happen later this year, they're going to have to fight this weekend. I don't expect them to have any major problems. Tyson Fury is up against Mariusz Wach of Poland, but as I say, this is the quality of the fight that happens later in the year. Don't forget, we still haven't got a venue. We think it might happen in Wembley Stadium. Dublin, Croke Park has been mentioned as well. There's big money to be made in Saudi. Even though they're not really fighting for a belt, either of them, it's just a fight.
It's a big match.
Yeah, everyone just wants to see it, don't they? And as I say, it should have happened years ago, but the main thing is it's going to happen, and we'll see what happens this weekend. But as I say, I expect both of them to negotiate their respective assignments pretty comfortably.
Yeah. Could we talk William Saliba?
Yeah.
Arsenal. He's really hurt his back in the World Cup, hasn't he?
Well, he has, yeah. He was off after... So in the semi-final, France played against Spain, and he went off after half an hour, Ellie, with a back injury. Now, Arsenal are really annoyed about this. They've not said as such, but they are, because this is what happens when you send your players on international duty, players that you spend tens of millions of pounds to sign, players that you spend tens of millions of pounds covering their wages. They go away with their international sides and they get injured. And for Arsenal to say yesterday that he's going to miss an extended period, the reason you say that is because it's going to be a long, long time. This guy was crucial to Arsenal last season. He played 50 matches in all competitions as they ended their 22-year wait for a Premier League title. They also got to the Champions League final as well. He's a key player, has been a key player for a number of years. They built this title win on defence. So for them to be without him is a crucial blow. And it probably... in some way, it hastens the argument for a 64-team World Cup. Let's have all the international football at the big tournaments. And I know you'll say to me, yeah, well, actually, it was a big tournament that he got injured at. But at least it keeps the players fit during the season if there's not as much qualifying, if there's not as much of a schedule bearing down on them. Because these players at the moment, although no one will have much sympathy for them because of the money they earn, they are playing too much football at the moment. And when it's a back injury in football, knee injuries are really important, ankle injuries, but back injuries, to me, suggest there could be a structural problem going forward. I really hope that's not the case because he's a top-class player, and we hope to see him back fit, healthy very soon.
That we do. Talking about medical issues,
yeah.
Should we talk about Cameron Menzies?
Yeah, this was in Blackpool on last night, actually. It was the World Match Play. We don't know why he had his match interrupted. He was up against Ross Smith. He was winning by two sets to 1. And he was just withdrawn because he reported some illness. I'm pleased to say that he was cleared by medics backstage to return, but he decided not to. But we'll expect maybe an update today on that, and as soon as we have it, we'll bring it to you.
Yeah, it's worrying stuff.
It is a bit, yeah.
Really is.
All right, Aidan, thank you very much indeed. See you later.
Thanks, Aidan. Now, do stay with us. Still to come, Andy Burnham is reviewing the early prison release schemes after PC Andrew Harper's widow blasted Labour's policy to ease prison overcrowding as deplorable.
Yeah, we'll go through that in the papers with Madeline Gran and Krish Kandaya shortly. But first, here's a European forecast.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
There's some mixed weather across parts of Europe at the moment. We have a heat wave affecting western parts. This will ease into the weekend, but for the time being, temperatures for some around 5 to 10 degrees above average. Some places getting into the high 30s, low 40s perhaps. Eastern Spain into North Africa as well. Then further east, well, across parts of Greece and nearby nations, we have some intense thundery downpours. 75 millimetres of rain in just a few hours. Large hail, gusty winds could cause some problems.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
What do you think about where we're going to get our future athletes and our Olympians from when we're telling our children, oh, you can't go out and partake in sports today because it's a bit hot?
It really worries me. We have a generation that spend their life being very inactive, an awful lot of time on mobile telephones, coming up with every excuse as to not to move and not to be moving. Sport in schools is where we can catch every kid. And the kids that will lose out are the kids that come from areas of deprivation, because the parents that can afford to make sure their children do sport will still do that. But the parents that can't afford, sadly, will miss out. So it's really important that our kids, do enough physical activity, lay down these habits, understand about how their body works and nutrition and food and looking after themselves and health. We have a health crisis. It's really important we start early.
The People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News entertainment editor Alex Davies joins us now. What a woman, what a voice, what an incredible life. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, like you said, she's a singer whose songs have transcended generations, really. Everybody knows Total Eclipse of the Heart. Everybody knows Holding Out for a Hero. She's been awarded an MBE. She represented the UK at Eurovision. And it's just very sad. Tributes have already started to pour in from across the showbiz world and just fans in general, This is somebody who's, like I said, transcended generations with her music and will continue to do so posthumously.
Well, thanks so much. I met her just once in a green room. She was an absolute delight, and even speaking, she had that great rasping voice.
Oh, what an incredible voice.
Incredible voice.
GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's newsroom. Weekday mornings from 9:30.
So you go along to the car showroom and only like 10%, at most maybe 15%, pay cash. The rest buy on some form of financing. And you often buy, it's a bit like a mortgage, and it's like buying a mortgage from the estate agent, which we all know is a terribly bad idea. Yeah. But this is what people did. And the scandal is, the guys in the showroom were acting as dealers and brokers, and they were in many cases inflating the interest rate that you paid so that they could get a bigger commission. And they didn't declare that. So you basically ended up paying more for your car than you would otherwise have done if you'd gone into the open market and found yourself, a better deal.
How did that come to light?
Well, over many years. This has been going on since 2007.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Oh, go on, you first. Ladies first, I say.
Welcome back. We're going through the papers, thank you, with Madeleine Graf from The Spectator and founder of the Sanctuary Foundation, Dr. Krish Kandiah. Very good morning, you two. Krish, let's start with you on Daily Mail front page, but actually front page of most of the papers this morning, let's be honest. Andy Burnham, forced to review the early prison release scheme. Tell us more.
Well, it's a huge challenge. There's massive overcrowding in our prisons. Some say they're 25% over capacity. So there's a capacity of about 70,000 people, but there's 87,000 people in prison. That's not great for quality of life. Can't be easy to keep prisoners in order when there's that kind of level of overcrowding. But you've got this challenge. There's 5,000 prisoners that are eligible for early release. And one of them was involved in the tragic, terrible murder of PC Harper.
Well, manslaughter.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Yeah, manslaughter. Thank you. And the widow has campaigned for a special law so that those that injure or kill our emergency service workers get more stringent sentences.
Well,
and so this would be in the face of that.
Mind you, this early release scheme was meant to be for lower level crimes.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what we were told.
Not for the manslaughter of a police officer.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate that not only does it include much more serious perpetrators, but also of very high-profile atrocities that we heard a great deal about rightly at the time, and we're now hearing about again. Two perpetrators who, even after the sentencing, remained unrepentant, were laughing at the sentencing.
Oh, there's some awful pictures of them.
It was absolutely horrific, and it couldn't have been a more tragic case, not just the bravery of PC Harper, but the fact that, he was newly married. I think he'd been married for just under a month in his 20s. It couldn't have been a more tragic case. So, it's interesting also that the government have now pivoted on this. It kind of suggests that actually it was a political choice all along. They say their hands were tied, but actually it was always within the realms of possibility that they could and should restrict this to, as you say, the lesser sentences.
We had Duncan Barks on the programme yesterday who was talking about the COVID years and the fact that Nightingale hospitals were erected and put together within a matter of weeks. Why couldn't we do the same like a Nightingale prison? Yes. Surely that would be a better alternative to letting dangerous people out.
I mean, you have to be very careful because the prison setup, as with so many things in Britain, we are coasting on what our ancestors built for us, and so much of the prison estate dates back to the early 20th century or the Victorian era, and we're very lucky that we've been able to coast by without investing in new infrastructure ourselves. But it's a bit like with the water shortages. There hasn't been a new reservoir since 1992. We haven't. Every government has been short-termist about this because it involves putting down a lot of money in the here and now. And you worry that maybe, just as with the Nightingale hospitals, many of them didn't get used, that maybe they wouldn't be up to the challenge. They have to be very secure environments and also designed in a way that doesn't encourage people that actually encourages some rehabilitation to take place there.
Yeah, and you've got the problem of where. Most people don't want a prison anywhere near them, do they? And we're already struggling for places to build housing. So.
No, but they've got to, you've got to deal with it. I mean, the problem you've got here, as far as I see it, Krish, is that whatever the solution, you can't have we're increasingly heading towards a system where, if you shoplift, nothing happens. There's no consequence to it. If you commit a crime that is worthy of a custodial sentence, it sort of doesn't matter what the judge says. It doesn't matter what you're sentenced to. You're getting out in half that time or a third of that time. It just makes a nonsense of all of it.
It does feel that way, and the big challenges are costs. How are we going to afford to build more prisons? A system that's creaking. Long waiting time to be seen. Not enough judges to oversee the prisons. So I think you're right, Maddie. There are lots of inherited problems, and it's going to take some investment to kind of change that.
Maddie, let's have a look at the Daily Express, shall we? West Streeting has refused to commit to hitting 3% defence spending by the end of the decade. Tell us more.
Yeah, I was really surprised by this story. So Wes Streeting, newly announced as the Defence Secretary, has, when asked, refused to be drawn explicitly in confirming that they will reach the 3% figure. I was quite surprised by this because I assumed that now, of course, Streeting's predecessor, John Healey, famously resigned from the government in protest at the absence of defence funding. He is now Chancellor of the Exchequer. It seems very strange to me that a precursor for him leaving the government and then re-entering it with that big job, where you are actually responsible for all of the purse strings, and it didn't come with a guarantee that defence money would be found. So it makes you think, actually, that maybe John Healey doesn't have as much power as we assumed he might as Chancellor.
But it would be a joke if he, as Chancellor, could not deliver on what was a resigning issue for him.
Completely. And it is a joke, and it's far too serious, and we face all kinds of threats. I think we're living in more perilous times than for decades, basically, across a range of areas, and it's not coherent in this day and age, especially when other countries that also neglected their defence are now paying a much higher share than us. We used to be towards the front of the table, and now we're really lagging behind.
It's been that for a long time, hasn't it? spending was cut under the Tories. How do we increase spending without increasing taxing? So, yeah, it's a really tough time. But it does look like this could be a real area of contention within government when two of the leading, cabinet members are going to be at odds with one another.
Well, except, is it fair to say at this stage that they just haven't had a chance to sit down and talk? I mean, we are talking a couple of days in. I know you said you think it'd be a precursor to Healy rejoining, but if you've not had the conversation, Wes Streeting isn't going to want to jump the gun, is he?
Yeah, good point. I mean, we ask our politicians to come in and sort everything out from day one. That was one of the criticisms of the Starmer government, that nothing was happening quickly. Andy Burnham's come out of the gates with a lot of promises, whether it's the bus fares being capped or reducing VAT on energy bills.
And now business rates for pubs and things being cut by 20% this morning.
One thing that does make me a bit suspicious is the fact that, I don't know, probably you've seen this, but Al Khan's former defence minister who resigned, he announced via social media that he had been offered a position in the new cabinet, but he declined on the basis that some of the issues that he raised upon his resignation, which I assume is the Northern Ireland legacy targeting, but also I imagine defence spending had not been resolved. So he didn't want to come in and give legitimacy to a government that still hasn't sorted out the problems that he raised. So I think it was a very principled thing for him to do. It also suggests that they have not found the money.
But then in the same breath said it was a good thing that John Healey was Chancellor.
Yeah, I think maybe he felt that because John Healey had walked out before, so had shown some mettle, so he maybe felt that was an improvement on Rachel Reeves. I imagine Al Khan's will not be happy about the news this morning.
Interesting, isn't it? All right, sticking with all the things that the government's doing, Krish in the Times, tax-free personal allowance, if you get it, it could be going up.
That's right. As we said, there have been a number of policy promises right out the gate. One of the things that Andy Burnham said on the steps of Downing Street was he was trying to bring breathing room for people struggling under the cost of living, hence the energy bill support and the bus fares. And there seems to be another move to try and help with that. People that are on, some of the lowest tax rates, or the lowest salaries will feel this as a real benefit to them. So again, it does seem like a government that's trying to do something, not just talk about it, but offer genuine support.
I mean, the interesting thing with it, if they unfroze tax-free allowance, you reckon it cost $9 billion.
Yeah.
I mean, they're spending all this money. It's got to come from, so it either has to come from raising taxes or it has to come from cutting welfare.
Absolutely. And when you start to add up these commitments, which, $9 billion is actually a large commitment in the grand scheme of government spending, but there's been a mixture of larger and comparatively smaller ones. When you add them all up, it does tally up to a vast sum of money that, as you say, has to be found from either taxation or cuts elsewhere, because, as been proved multiple times in the last few years, we're no longer in a place where we can comfortably borrow what we used to. That era is well and truly over. And we also have, we're grappling with bigger demographic challenges in terms of ageing population. So it seems like we don't live in the cloud cuckoo land where you can just make these vague promises without backing them up substantially. And I think there's a danger with the personal allowance, although it's very tempting to increase it because it would liberate people from paying tax. We already have a very, very lopsided income tax system where it's disproportionately borne by higher earners. I think the top 1% pays 27% of all income tax. The top 10%, I think, pays 60%, which actually, there's a risk that if you put even more pressure on the people at the top, often those people are very internationally mobile, so they may leave, and you might find that creates a bigger black hole in the grand scheme of spending.
In the last 4 days, this Burnham government, in the first 4 days, this Burnham government, I should say, there's been a number of giveaways, hasn't there? We've had an announcement every single morning, pretty much, on GB News Breakfast, coming from the Cabinet. Do you think that this is a pre-election giveaway? Do you think that Andy Burnham is going to go to the country? Are you getting that sense?
I don't think so. I don't think he needs to. How many changes of Conservative government leaders did we have without the need for a general election? I think he's genuinely trying to show he listens to people and he's trying to make people's lives better. He's trying to offer a little bit of hope.
Madeline?
Well, I think it's all very well and good, but so far Andy Burnham has been all about kind of good vibes, hope in every heart, growth in every postcode, problem solving, not
climb every mountain.
It's all
Love
a bit
that song.
hello trees, hello sky. And the problem is that some of the announcements have already kind of unravelled. Like, there's been very mixed messages. The tax-free personal allowance thing was trailed a few days ago in the Times. Then they came out and said maybe it's not happening, and now it seems it might be back on again. And it turned out that the policy on VAT on energy prices was unfunded because it was based on scrapping a previous government policy, digital ID, that itself was not funded. So you've got to at least do the work before. I mean, hope, I agree with, but if you give people hope and then find that you can't make good on your promises, then that's actually worse than hope, I would say.
Yeah, it's interesting. What's happening at the Department for Energy, according to The Guardian?
Well, The Guardian has done a profile on Miatta van Buller, who has replaced Ed Miliband as the Energy and Net Zero Secretary. And it's quite an interesting choice because in some ways the cabinet picks were kind of surprisingly right-wing, I would say. It was touted that maybe Ed Miliband would be Chancellor, and in the end he went for John Healey, a kind of middle-of-the-road safe pair of hands. Shabana Mahmood stays where she is in the Home Office, even though some of her colleagues are known to be very unhappy about her plans for things like indefinite leave to remain. One outlier in this is that Ed Miliband's brief has been taken over by somebody who's equally, I would say, ideological about green spending, and it just talks about some of the things that she has believed in the past, where before becoming an MP she was the head of a pretty left-wing think tank that was kind of all for net zero and even wanted net zero by, I think it was 2030, not the kind of 2050, which is we're finding very difficult to achieve at the best of times. I think it was 2030 or, it was decarbonise, So it's... So, yes, it was in some ways quite a surprising appointment. And also that proposes a question about another thing we're not sure about with Andy Burnham is, are they going to drill again and then are they going to open new licences in the North Sea?
I thought we'd been told that was happening.
But as with many things, there's been mixed messaging.
Apparently it's not new licences, it's existing licences, but he's going to drill more.
OK.
So there's a loophole there,
Yes,
apparently.
that's right. We're not allowed to open new ones under the current manifesto.
So he'll just be drilling more in the ones that we do already have.
But there's still the Rosebank and the...
Rose, and it looks as though he might approve
Seems to have won him a bit of favour with Donald Trump.
Well, that's true.
Well, if that happens... We've got a quick 30 seconds, Chris, to talk about fat jabs and hair loss.
Oh, just when you were thinking you had a wonder drug that could solve every problem that many people are facing on their weight, it seems that you could well be losing your hair. We were discussing earlier how much hair? Will that be kind of the trade-off that you kind of work it out? Is it worth losing a few inches around your waist to kind of lose a few inches off your head?
No.
And could you supplement that by some transplants or something? So, bad news, sadly.
Well, thin and bald. There you go. You can't have it always. All right, thanks both. See you later.
Let's get a check now on your weather.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, it's time for your GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. And now, for a fair few of us today, it is going to be bright and sunny at times, especially towards the southwest. But further north, there will be a bit of rain around. The rain doesn't look especially heavy, but a few outbreaks of mostly light, drizzly rain pushing across some northern western parts of Scotland and perhaps into the far north of Northern Ireland as well. Elsewhere, one or two showers can't be ruled out, but generally it's looking dry, with the greatest amount of sunshine across parts of central, western, southwestern UK. Here we're likely to see temperatures peaking in the high 20s, so the heat wave goes on for some places here. Further north, well, a little bit fresher with temperatures peaking high teens, low 20s, that sort of thing. Into the evening, there will be a few more outbreaks of rain across the far northwest of Scotland. These will edge a bit further south than eastwards as we go overnight, but across eastern parts of Scotland actually having a largely fine end to the day with some decent sunshine. A bit cloudier across Northern Ireland, can't rule out a few spots of rain, but for England and Wales, yes, mostly fine. A bit of cloud here and there, especially towards the east and northeast. Further south and west, holding on to those clearer skies for that little bit longer. Like I said, that that rain in the far north does edge a bit further southwards across more parts of Scotland as we go overnight, with some of that rain pushing into Northern Ireland by the time we get to dawn tomorrow morning. But across England and Wales, staying dry and a fairly warm night for many places, temperatures holding up in the mid to high teens, especially in the towns and cities. The outbreaks of rain across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland, well, there will be a few more of them compared to today. A bit heavier, but still not a huge amount of rain for many places. Eastern parts of Scotland staying dry, and across England and Wales it's staying dry with a decent amount of sunshine, a bit brighter, sunnier than today across eastern parts, and here temperatures edging up a little bit with highs of around 29, possibly 30 Celsius. See you later.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for making GB News Radio such a huge success. Whether you're in the car, on the go or listening at home, thank you for choosing us as your radio station.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M27 is closed between junctions 2 and 1 in Cadnam. The A5 is closed after the A453. The M1 northbound is closed between junctions 34 and 35 in Osthorpe. The A1M is closed between junctions 42 and 44 at junction 42. The M58 is closed after the M6. The M25 clockwise has an obstruction at junction 26 in Waltham Abbey. North of the border, the M8 is restricted in both directions between junctions 16 and 18 due to bridge repairs. And on the trains, cross-country services have no trains between Torquay and Paignton. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
What would you do with £60,000 cash? What would you do with a real gold bar? Well, both have to be won in our Golden Summer celebration. First, there's £60,000 in tax-free cash to bolster your bank account this year. Plus, we'll also give you a fine gold bar worth over £5,000. For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry starts at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Britain is not just a geographical expression. We are a people bound together by history and culture that are distinctively British. Join me to celebrate our music, theatre, artworks and literature, which we can explore and enjoy together.
Everybody's welcome.
Sunday with Michael Costello. Every Sunday at 11 a.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Andy Burnham gives pubs a boost.
Yes, the new Prime Minister announces that pubs, clubs and music venues will benefit from a 20% cut in business rates.
Big question, of course. How's he going to fund it?
Well, this is set to save pubs around £1,100 a year. The government say they're going to fund it through a crackdown on shops like vape shops and things like online marketplaces, businesses that aren't conducive to a positive high street.
Backlash mounts over Labour's flagship early prison release scheme, with reports that the new Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, is set to pause the plan after vowing to investigate the early release of the killers of PC Andrew Harper.
Scottish Labour leader Anna Salwar accused of hypocrisy after being made a peer by the Prime Minister, despite previously calling for the upper chamber to be axed.
The first small boat migrants arrive in the UK since Andy Burnham became Prime Minister. Could Burnham's historically relaxed approach to immigration lead to a spell of illegal boat crossings?
A hosepipe ban officially enforced now for millions of Thames Water customers as the economic cost of the heatwave is revealed.
Where would Britain be without the RAF Bomber Command? Well, today we pay tribute to the Air Force branch responsible for the strategic bombing of enemy infrastructure during World War II.
Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua are trading verbal blows as both fighters face tune-up bouts ahead of what's been billed as the biggest fight in boxing history. And could Jeff Bezos really buy a stake in Liverpool? Find out later.
Yes, there's a little bit of light rain across some northern parts today and tomorrow, but further south it's staying dry. There'll be plenty of sunshine and some places getting above those heat wave threshold temperatures. Again, I'll have more details coming up.
It's just gone 7 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Ellie Costello and this is GB News Breakfast.
So let's start with that breaking news coming out of number 10 this morning. Andy Burnham says he's going to cut business rates for pubs, clubs and live music venues.
Yes, they're going to receive a 20% reduction in their business rates, which translates to an average saving of around £1,100 a year.
Well, the move is, we expect, going to be welcomed by hospitality industry, which has faced rising costs, of course, over recent years. But there is a very big question. How do you pay for it all?
Well, we're joined now by our national reporter, Will Godley. Will, it's the million-dollar question.
It certainly is, yeah, or the $100 million question. That's what this is forecast to cost, this measure, every single year. Good morning to both of you. But, of course, it's something I'm sure pubs will be welcoming. They've been calling for a cut to business rates for the last couple of years now. And publicans, landlords I've been speaking to during that time, desperate for some sort of help. £1,100, I'm sure, welcome, not going to change anyone's life, but still will go some way to helping them out with the cost of living and increasing cost of doing businesses that they find themselves in. So not just pubs, of course, welcoming this change or reacting to this change, but this is also going to affect clubs and live music venues as well, also receiving this 20% cut to business rates, applying to nearly 32,000 venues across England, but not the biggest live music venues. The question is, though, as you say, how will they pay for it? Well, the government insisting today that this is fully funded, as they have done the last few days. That hasn't stopped people, though, questioning and poking holes in how they're exactly going to pay for things. And no doubt the same thing will happen today, particularly as the way they've said they're going to pay for this is slightly confusing and not really drilled down into the detail. All they've said is they're going to review the tax reliefs that businesses that do not make a positive contribution to local communities, things like vape shops, they're going to review the reliefs that they get. They're also going to crack down on online marketplaces that do not comply with tax obligations. So they'll be hoping to raise that £100 million that way. Whether or not it raises that amount of money, well, we'll have to wait and see. No doubt economists will be looking at that this morning, but Andy Burnham will want to say this is all part of his push for growth in every postcode. That's the message he's going to drill down when he meets the leaders of Scotland and Wales today in Glasgow. But Kemi Badenoch has dubbed his push for growth, or his breathing space for cost of living, as a spending spree. Of course, his third cost of living measure in as many days. Kemi Badenoch's going to outline her response to Andy Burnham's cost of living measures today. She's going to urge him not to raise taxes to pay for this big spending spree that he's going on. She's also going to urge him to utilise the North Sea, drill for oil and gas there, in order to push for growth across the country. But while Kemi Badenoch doesn't want any more taxes, 120 millionaires have written to Andy Burnham today, urging for him to introduce a wealth tax. Among them, Gary Lineker. Now, these 120 UK-based millionaires are calling for a 2% tax on wealth over £10 million. They also want reforms to capital gains tax, and they say it would raise £36 billion a year. This is part of this Proud to Pay letter. It's from the Patriotic Millionaires UK group, and Gary Lineker, writing in this letter, has said paying your fair share is a basic British value, but so many ordinary people are already paying more than they can afford. Our richest people can do more, and most want to do more. So they're urging Andy Burnham to go for a wealth tax, so something that will be incredibly controversial, and I'm sure something he won't want to talk about until that budget he's going to have to deliver later on this year. For now, though, it seems he's wanting to cut taxes on things like electricity bills for people, families at home, and also for pubs, live music venues. This business rates relief he's announced today, a 20% tax cut there, something no doubt many pubs will be welcoming, especially after they've been calling for support for so long.
OK, Will, thanks very much indeed. We're going to talk to some publicans throughout the programme this morning and get their take on it. I'm sure it will be welcomed by most of them. The big question is it enough for them?
Yeah. I think the sense that we're getting, and we are going to speak to someone throughout the programme, is that they are cautiously welcoming it. But their biggest issue is employment. Employing people and the cost of employing people. And so far, that hasn't changed, has it? That's one of the biggest costs to them.
Anyway, look, sticking with the Prime Minister, he has apparently paused the early prison release scheme after backlash over plans that could see two of PC Andrew Harper's killers freed.
Yes, well, you might remember PC Harper had been investigating a theft in the summer of 2019 when the 28-year-old officer was killed after being caught in a tow rope that was attached to a car. He was then dragged down a country lane, wasn't he, for
about a mile.
For about a mile. It was just awful. It's a horrific case.
Absolutely horrific. Well, Number 10 is reviewing the scheme. PC Harper's widow called it deplorable that two of his killers could be released not just before the end of their sentences, but a long time before the end of their sentences, actually.
Well, joining us now is General Secretary of the Prison Officers Association, Steve Gillen. Very good morning to you, Steve. Would you welcome a pause on this scheme?
Well, firstly, good morning, Steve, and good morning, Ellie. Yes, I would welcome a pause on this because victims should come first and foremost. And the case there that you've highlighted about PC Harper, I actually think it's deplorable that any individual should be released early from their sentence in respect to that, and indeed many other sentences where victims have come forward to say that they've received letters from the Ministry of Justice warning them that potential rapists, sex offenders, paedophiles are being released under this scheme. It's not right, and I'm glad that the new Prime Minister has actually maybe said, I've not actually heard him say it yet, he said yesterday that he was going to review the issue with Alex Norris, the new Justice Secretary, and then come out with a statement. But if your information is that he's actually paused the scheme, then I would welcome that, Ellie.
Look, the issue you've got here, though, because he said he can't can't guarantee that he can sort of just scrap it, if you like, and presumably that's down to the pressures on prison spaces and people like you and the people you represent. What is the current state of play for prisons at the moment, and indeed for the pressure that prison officers are under?
Well, Stephen, we've been saying for many years now that successive governments have failed the prison service and indeed the whole criminal justice system. I mean, you only have to look back at the last 14 or 15 years. There's been what I can only describe as financial vandalism to the criminal justice system. So they came in under enormous pressure where prison places were at a premium. But that doesn't excuse the fact that they're now in power. for the last 2 years. Just releasing prisoners early isn't going to solve the crisis within our system. And we have review after review after review that just does nothing, to be honest with you. There's another review now that's going to be led by Amber Rudd, the former Home Secretary. I hope something comes out of this one, but I've been around the last 35 years and I've seen so many different reviews. They all gather dust and nothing ever gets done. So I'm hoping that there is a sensible review, because we haven't got all the answers in the POA, but we've got most of the answers, and building your way out of a crisis as well isn't going to work. Under the last administration, they shut over 20 prisons and didn't build hardly any new oncoming places. So we've been failed effectively by all political parties, quite frankly.
Yeah. Steve,
and it's our members, Ellie. It's actually our members, Ellie, that are on the receiving end day in, day out, trying to keep the lid on places.
Well, I was just going to ask you, just finally, what practical implications would this have on your members in terms of organising this, if this prison release scheme is paused, or even if it's U-turned on? Because we've got a prison officer speaking to the Times newspaper this morning saying it's causing absolute bedlam. They have organised the release dates of 5,000 prisoners, and now they're having to sit tight on it whilst they work out what the ministers actually want.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Ellie, and that prison officer's correct as well. I mean, the Sentencing Act of 2026 received royal assent in January. So already progress had been made for these issues about the release of prisoners, whether it was at the 50% level or the 33% level. I don't think either is ideal, as you've just highlighted about PC Harper, and there's many, many other cases as well. I think it will cause havoc within the prison service. Already a lot of the work has been done. Victims have been written to. I mean, I've got to say as well, what a horrible way to do things, to send a letter to a victim, bringing it all up again to tell them that, you know, don't worry about it, but the person that either assaulted you very badly or raped you is actually going to get out early. But there'll be exclusion zones, and while they're in custody, they'll be tagged. But we all know that the tagging has failed in the past. What makes us think it's going to work now?
You raised some very good points. Steve, good to see you this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Ellie.
Thanks, Steve.
I mean, it's thoroughly depressing. I mean, but just the idea that, I mean, I know this one particular case, because it was so heinous and shocked the country, actually, when this young man, you know, newly married young man, lost his life doing his job. But so that brings it home. But for as Steve Gillen rightly points out, anyone who's been the victim of crime, especially one of these sort of serious crimes, more serious crimes, you know, if people are getting out after serving 33% of their sentence, it does make you wonder you might have felt, you know, a bit of justice was done if someone was given 10 years, 15 years, but if they're getting out in 5...
Is that justice?
Is it really?
Does it feel like that? I don't think it does.
They'll be on licence for a long time, but it's not quite the same, is it?
No, and that's what Lizzie Harper said, actually, the widow of Andrew Harper said, is justice something we truly believe in, or is it just something that can be negotiated away when it's no longer convenient? That's how she feels about it. And you can't blame her for that, can you?
Oh, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, especially when you see these pictures you see on the screen right now of these, you know, a newly married couple, and to think a few weeks later he met this particularly awful end. And the idea that, and that was in 2019, and the idea that they could be out this year.
Yeah.
I mean, it just doesn't seem like any time at all, does it, really?
It doesn't feel right, does it?
And it seemed like even less time for her and his family and her family.
Yeah.
So...
Anyway, let us know what you think. You will certainly have a view on that one, gbnews.com/you'll say. John says, Britain's prisons are full of low-level offenders. They need to be released without danger to the community. The rule has to be any violent crime, no early release. It has to be that simple.
Yeah.
You would think, wouldn't you? You'd think that's common sense. But our prison system is in crisis, as we just heard there from from our guest Steve.
But also, you have to bear in mind, I mean, it's quite rightly says, all the people who are sort of low-level crimes, they're the ones who should be released early. You don't particularly want to release them early, though, do you? Because that just encourages people to think, well, this low-level crime, they can just carry on regardless. It doesn't really matter. But if you've got to make a choice, then those will be the ones that you let out. Anyway, keep your thoughts coming through. In the meantime, let's get a check on the weather with Alex.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, it's time for your GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. And now, for a fair few of us today, it is going to be bright and sunny at times, especially towards the southwest. But further north, there will be a bit of rain around. The rain doesn't look especially heavy, but a few outbreaks of mostly light, drizzly rain pushing across some northern western parts of Scotland and perhaps into the far north of Northern Ireland as well. Elsewhere, 1 or 2 showers can't be ruled out, but generally it's looking dry, with the greatest amount of sunshine across parts of central, western, southwestern UK. Here we're likely to see temperatures peaking in the high 20s, so the heat wave goes on for some places here. Further north, well, a little bit fresher with temperatures peaking high teens, low 20s, that sort of thing. Into the evening, there will be a few more outbreaks of rain across the far northwest of Scotland. These will edge a bit further south than eastwards as we go overnight, but across eastern parts of Scotland actually having a largely fine end to the day with some decent sunshine. A bit cloudier across Northern Ireland, can't rule out a few spots of rain, but for England and Wales, yes, mostly fine. A bit of cloud here and there, especially towards the east and northeast. Further south and west, holding on to those clearer skies for that little bit longer. Like I said, that rain in the far north does edge a bit further southwards across more parts of Scotland as we go overnight, with some of that rain pushing into Northern Ireland by the time we get to dawn tomorrow morning. But across England and Wales, staying dry and a fairly warm night for many places, temperatures holding up in the mid to high teens, especially in the towns and cities. The outbreaks of rain across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland, well, there will be a few more of them compared to today. A bit heavier, but still not a huge amount of rain for many places. Eastern parts of Scotland staying dry, and across England and Wales it's staying dry with a decent amount of sunshine, a bit brighter, sunnier than today across eastern parts, and here temperatures edging up a little bit with highs of around 29, possibly 30 Celsius. See you later.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Now, do stay with us. Still to come, can the new Prime Minister Andy Burnham save the Great British Pub? We're going to get the views of one pub landlord next.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Brave. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Here at GB News, we made a promise to tell your stories. And on the 6th of August, we're marking 5 years of doing exactly that.
Celebrate with us by having your say. Join in the debates live on TV and radio.
And meeting your favourite presenters across the country, from Leeds to Aberdeen, from Belfast to Barry Island.
Plus, join me in Essex for our biggest live show of the year. Scan the QR code or visit gbnews.com/celebrate. Terms and conditions apply.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter? So that's a very live question. Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way.
You will not want to miss it, trust me. The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
So at 7:21, we're back to the breaking news this morning that Andy Burnham says he's going to cut business rates for pubs, clubs and live music venues.
Yes, pubs will receive a 20% reduction in their business rates, but we're asking, is this enough to save the Great British Pub?
Let's talk to Rod Humphreys, who's landlord at the Raven in Bath. Good to see you this morning, Rod. So you've got a reduction in VAT on your energy bills and you've got a 20% reduction in your business rates. What's that going to mean to you?
It will help. The truth is, this is welcome. It's not enough necessarily if things go bad, because we're all subject to the economy. If my customers don't have enough discretionary spending money, then we'll still be in trouble. But I also like it because it's a measure which seems to favour small businesses over big businesses, which is unusual. But yeah, fundamentally, thank you, Andy. I'll take it.
What support would you like to see? What do you think would guarantee the success and the survival of the Great British Pub?
The things I would kill for are either a reduction or removal of the minimum wage so that I can start young people and train them before I'm forced to pay them any given amount, and a massive reduction in NIC. That would be employment-related costs, forcing us to pay pensions and employment taxes mean that, because you can't serve beer without staff. You just can't. So usually our biggest bills are our staff. And every year since I've been trading 20 years, it keeps going up. At some point, can we please wind it back a bit?
I mean, it's interesting. Whether they'd ever go for that, it's hard to say, isn't it? But, I mean, you talked about the fact that this is a help, but it's dependent on what money your customers have got to spend. We are also hearing that there's going to be an unfreezing of the tax-free allowance, which would mean that a lot of people will have more money in their pocket. So when you tie all of these things together...
it might help. And my feeling is, obviously, I'm one of the things I'm proud about the Raven, we have a very wide demographic. So I have people from the trades who, up to this point, have generally done pretty well, but obviously quite a lot of white-collar customers too. And generally speaking, these are the people you're talking about. They're really struggling. The amount of tax on our middle classes is actually very, very high. You generally got two people working very hard just to have a house, raise the children, and therefore their opportunity to go out for a family meal, things like that, is very tight.
Do you fear that perhaps this is too little too late for some pubs in this country? We know that the industry has been on its knees for a very long time.
We all know that the whole landscape's been changing and it's become a fight to survive. And that's for many reasons. Some of them are cultural. I'm old enough to come from a generation where we would normally go for a beer after work. It still happens on Friday to a degree, but it's largely gone. The whole landscape in that sense has changed. and the vibrancy of our city centres. Bath is not too bad, but the feeling of it has got so much more controlled. So, for example, I used to be in favour of things like pedestrianisation. I was completely wrong. We need to get out of the way of people coming into our city centres. We need vastly fewer rules. We need much more freedom for small traders to open shops. So one thing that our councils can, I don't know if this rate reduction will help with, is we need, for example, to start a business in the city centre is a massive cost, both in terms of bureaucracy and capital. If we can do things like get out of the way of that and let small businesses take risks and then tax them when they succeed, rather than forcing them to pay up front, we could perhaps get some life into our city centres, which would help everybody.
Oh, that's a really good point, Rod.
Yeah.
Good to talk to you this morning.
We could talk to you all day, Rod.
We could, yeah. You've got a lot of good ideas.
Yeah.
Well,
Andy Burnham should maybe give you a call.
Oh, yes.
Thanks,
All right,
Rod.
cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, it's everything like that is a gamble.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to, the idea that you give people a bit of a head start and then charge them when they're doing well. So I think it's a gamble, it's a risk, but it does get things going. People need to have the confidence to take a bit of a gamble.
Yeah.
And it won't all work, but some will.
Yeah, I mean, Republicans are certainly feeling like they're being listened to. It's one of the things they've been asking for. But as you just heard from Rod there, they want a lot more. It's the cost of employing people, which is the big thing for them. And that's the change they want to see.
Yeah.
Sean says, sadly, the traditional British pub is now a thing of the past. Driving to the coast and seeing a nice pub to pop in, I feel like is getting very scarce these days.
Well, let's hope you're wrong on that. I hope you're wrong. I hope we see a bit of a resurgence, because it's such a great British institution, actually.
We'd miss them if they're gone.
Society. Well, yeah, absolutely. Anyway, keep your thoughts coming through on this breaking news this morning. We could talk to the government just after 9 o'clock and work out exactly what they're doing, why they're doing it and how they're going to pay for it.
Yes. Now, in the meantime, 7:27, just time to tell you about the Great British Giveaway, and it is truly great. 60 grand in tax-free cash and a real gold bar. Here are all of the details that you need.
We're celebrating a golden summer with your chance to win a real gold bar. That's right, a fine gold bullion bar worth over £5,000 could be yours. That's gold that you could keep, trade in, or gift to a loved one to secure their financial future. We're also going to make sure your finances are fabulous with £60,000 in tax-free cash that you can spend on anything you like. And because it's tax-free, every single penny of it will be yours. So don't miss out. For a chance to win £60,000 in tax-free cash and a real gold bar, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
All right, the Commonwealth Games begins today, and organisers are hoping that there will be a late surge in ticket prices. Find out more with Aidan in a moment.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News each and every week.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M27 westbound is closed between junctions 2 and 1 in Cadnam. There is a collision causing slow traffic on the M20 westbound between junctions 6 and 5 in Aylesford. The M1 southbound at junction 9 in Redbourne is also slow following a collision. The A5 is closed after the A453. North of the border, the A90 is restricted in both directions at Finnevan due to planned roadworks. And on the trains, cross-country services are not running between Torquay and Paignton, and East Midlands Railway services have a reduced timetable. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back, it's sports time. Ada McGee is here with us. Morning.
Good morning. Can we talk about the Commonwealth Games?
Let's.
Because it opens later today in Glasgow, but it's wildly scaled back compared to what it was going to be. Now, for context, sorry, go on.
Isn't it indoors?
Yes, it's at the OVO Hydro, although it's going to be at 4 different venues. There are tickets still available for all 4 sites. Now, that's not a good sign, given that the opening ceremony is this evening. But for context, Glasgow is only stepping in to host this event because in 2023 the Melbourne State of Victoria said that they couldn't do it, and that's because they thought it was going to cost £1.35 billion to host it. And that was the projection, and then only to find out after estimations that it was going to be closer to £3.1 billion. That's over 2.5 times the amount. They said that the economic benefits to the state would not cover anywhere near the costs of hosting the event. It's becoming like Eurovision, isn't it? Nobody wants to host it. And so Scotland, or Glasgow more specifically, stepped in to take over. That was a couple of years ago. And when you consider that in 2014, Glasgow held the event, Celtic Park, or Parkhead as Celtic fans call it, was central to the bid or to the hosting. 50 or 60,000 people watched some of the events there. We're talking today about 11,000 people. 215 gold medals are up for grabs this time compared to 261 in 2014. And the cost of the event is wildly scaled back at around about £150 million, and none of that is public money either. Nobody in government wanted to commit anything to this because they just weren't sure how it was going to go. Most of it's going to be covered by the Commonwealth Games organisation. So I just wonder if this event is dying on its backside, to be honest with you, because we've seen recent events in Birmingham. It was okay there, but I mean, again, there's so much waste attached to this. You know, it's like if you look at the World Cup in America just now, the reason it was a major commercial success, Ellie, is because they didn't have to build anything. And the major problem is that if you build stuff, it's great for 3 weeks that the event is on, or 2 weeks, or whatever it is, but what do you do after that? If you look at the London 2012 Games here, one of the reasons, it's not the worst example of waste around the world. We have seen lots of Olympic stadiums, for example, just lying in rot to waste, particularly in Athens from 2004, with the stadium just they're not doing anything. But the reason West Ham pay a pittance to rent that stadium every year, £2 million a year, I think it is. It's basically a peppercorn rent to go in there. It's because, realistically, if you're going to build a 60,000-seater stadium in East London on wasteland, what else is it going to be used for? What else is going to go in there and fill that number of people? It has to be a football club. It has to be a Premier League club. So you're limiting yourself when you build something like that. And that's why cities and states and wherever else around the world, when they're considering hosting even Olympics, even Commonwealth Games, even World Cups, Euros, they have to really consider what they're getting themselves into here, because the costs can spiral out of control. But we do have the opening ceremony tonight at 8 p.m.
Can we have a look at Wolves striker?
Yeah, I hate this. Absolutely hate this.
He's had a protest on the pitch.
Yeah, Tolu Orekadari. He scored 3 goals in 24 matches last season for Wolves. They finished bottom of the league, Ellie. This is not a superstar player. On Monday, he staged a sit-in during training in the middle of the centre circle because Wolves will not sell him to Fiorentina. They've accepted a bid from the Turkish club Trabzonspor, and they like the sound of that bid. It's the right money, but Fiorentina obviously hadn't bid the requisite amount of money, and that's where the player wants to go. So he's decided to throw his toys out the pram and sit in the centre circle. The manager, the newly appointed Cesar Pixoto, decided to cancel training because of that. That was on Monday, as I said. Security officials have been brought in to guard the training ground. So this guy is about 6'5", 6'6", can't get into the ground and cause further disruption. Regrettably, though, it's not the first time I've heard of this. This is a problem going back a couple of decades. If a footballer doesn't get what they want, it's not unusual for them to sabotage or disrupt training, kick balls around and basically make a nuisance of themselves, so the clubs just eventually think, well, actually, it's not worth having this guy around, let's give him what he wants. Now, look, there are two sides to every story. I understand that the player hasn't made a representation as of yet, but what sort of message does that send to young supporters? What does it send to young footballers who want to get into the game? If you don't get what you want, just down tools, sit in the middle of the training pitch so that none of your colleagues can train for the new season, which is underway in just 2 weeks' time. I think it's disgusting.
It's a bad look, isn't it?
It is,
really
without doubt, yeah.
Let's talk about another American who might want to buy a British football club.
Yeah, 30% of it. Jeff Bezos, we know him from Amazon, of course, the executive chair, worth around £200 billion. Now, why would you want to buy into a football club? I don't really know. All we know at the moment is that the ex-QPR director, Amit Bhatia, who resigned on Tuesday, he's the son-in-law of the Indian steel magnate Lakshmi Mittal. He's worth around £29 billion. They've apparently approached Jeff Bezos with a view to investing in Liverpool Football Club. Now, I don't think this means that Fenway, or FSG as they're known, the majority shareholders in Liverpool, the majority owners, are looking to dilute their shares. We don't think that's necessarily the case, but this lot fancy buying into Liverpool. When you've got that amount of money, we know what a cash pit football clubs can be, particularly at the top level, when you've got to buy players for hundreds of millions of pounds, you've got to service the wages, you've got to pay agents as well. It's very, very difficult, and I just wonder what's in it for Jeff Bezos to buy into a football club, because if it was me, I'd be advising him to steer well clear.
It's the prestige, though, isn't it?
It is. It's huge prestige. He's got other franchises. Having said that, Ellie, Amazon are also showing Premier League matches now, so there's a conflict of interest there. Remember when Sky tried to buy Man United in I think it was 1998? It didn't happen because the Monopolies and Mergers Commission got involved and said, well, you can't be making money out of the TV rights and own one of the clubs involved in it as well. I can see a situation like that happening here, and if Jeff Bezos has to come out of Amazon or has to sometimes somehow relinquish his rights to show matches, then that could be a serious problem if any bid or any involvement is concerned going forward.
Interesting. All right, Aidan, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Aidan. Now, do stick with us. We'll be going through the papers next with Madeleine Grant and Dr. Krish Kandaya. Morning, you two. Chat to you just a second.
First, here's your European forecast.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
There's some mixed weather across parts of Europe at the moment. We have a heat wave affecting western parts. This will ease into the weekend, but for the time being, temperatures for some around 5 to 10 degrees above average. Some places getting into the high 30s, low 40s perhaps. Eastern Spain into North Africa as well. Then further east, well, across parts of Greece and nearby nations, we have some intense thundery downpours. 75 millimetres of rain in just a few hours. Large hail, gusty winds could cause some problems.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Should James Bond stay white and male?
Yes, I think that's probably the best course of action. If you think about it, Amazon have taken over Bond about a year ago, and they're a big company, aren't they? And this is a risk, isn't it? They don't want to be seen to cast their first James Bond in anything other than the most popular Bond to everybody. So if you're a casting director, like Debbie McWilliams has said, the previous one, I suppose it'd be who would be the most popular? What's the safest thing to do? So I think, you know, in other iterations, you know, there's nothing to say it couldn't be anything other than white, but this is the first one back, so I think it will be the safe thing to do. And it has to be a man. That's non-negotiable. I think audiences would instantly be complaining, and they want as little controversy going into this new film as they can.
The People's Channel. Martin Daubney. Weekdays from 3 p.m.
With the football, a row has erupted. A racism row again, this time at a Kent secondary school after pupils' children were allegedly told to scrub painted England flags from their arms because, you've guessed it, they were deemed as racist. Is this the woke flag monitors simply spoiling everybody's fun?
Now, look, if we are going to police flags, that's clearly a problem. I think there are lots of people who feel negatively towards the England flag because of what it's represented in the past, and that's a real shame. But it's nice to see that new generations, you know, I'm the son of immigrants and I don't feel that. I haven't inherited that, and that's really positive. Look, so we should be able to, especially during a football match, fly that flag with pride and enjoy it.
I know that part of the world a little bit. I travelled to Broadstairs, Thanet, Sandwich. You see the Union flag, and particularly the England flag, everywhere.
Yes.
Even under normal circumstances, you see the England flag being proudly flown. So this is completely insane.
The People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
There was a Ryanair flight from Thessaloniki in Greece, and a part of the plane hit the window and pulled it out. And so this man, a 61-year-old Serbian man, was sucked out of the window. And his wife, she says that she was desperately holding onto his legs to keep him inside the plane for 5 minutes. Wow. It was horrendous. Apparently the aircraft did eventually land normally and passengers were safe and a replacement airline was sent. He was taken to hospital with friction burns. It was a part of the propeller had come loose from the engine and it had hit the window, and that's what had taken the window out. So it wasn't as though it was thought to be loose in the first place. But can you imagine?
No.
I mean,
I don't want to.
Unbelievable.
I'm not a good flyer, I have to admit. This terrifies me.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. Let's take a look at some of the newspaper front pages at 7:42.
Well, The Independent leads on the Prime Minister's pledge to review the early prison release scheme after it was revealed 2 of the killers of PC Harper are set to be freed early.
The Express also leads on the early release scheme after the widow of PC Harper called the plan deplorable and said every victim deserves better.
The Metro reports that Andy Burnham wants to expand London's tap-on, tap-off TfL fare system to all of the UK.
And finally, The Mirror headlines a message from Gary Lineker, with the former Match of the Day presenter joining a group of millionaires urging the government to make them pay more tax.
Right, let's look through some of those then with assistant editor and parliamentary sketch writer at The Spectator, Madeline Grant, and founder of the Sanctuary Foundation, Krish Kandaya. Good to see you both this morning. Madeline, let's talk about Mr Lineker, should we?
Yes.
The man who wants to pay more tax, but the man who took the government to court over or Inland Revenue to court over paying tax just a couple of years, 3 years ago.
Well, maybe that's what he feels so terrible about that he'd like to make good.
Make amends.
Yes. Well, I think is that there's nothing stopping anyone who wants to pay more tax. They can send a cheque to HMRC and they could do that tomorrow. They could even do it in a very public way if they wish to. But I think there is something interesting
Let's
about
all
this.
do that.
Yeah,
then.
I mean, they could do it any time. I don't know. I feel like Lineker has become increasingly politically tedious. You know, during the World Cup, he referred to Argentina as the Falklands as Las Malvinas, which to me is like wrong and 101.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the thing is that it's all very well and good for them, but this kind of assumes that everyone thinks as they do. And actually, if their plans were implemented, you might find that it didn't lead to more tax receipts, but it led to a greater exodus of the internationally wealthy. And it's already happening in Britain, and it may happen more. And that would actually saddle the rest of us with higher tax, and it wouldn't just be paid by the plutocrats.
Krish, do you think that rich people should pay more?
I do actually. I think this idea that paying less tax is somehow clever seems wrong to me. But tax is the way that we fund our hospitals, our schools. Why not invest in the country?
But it's what you would call fairness. And to be fair, I mean, the people who want the rich to pay more tax talk about a level of fairness. But the problem is, it is the rich people, whether you like it or not, who are actually funding everything else. They're paying the vast majority of income tax, they're employing other people, they're spending money in shops, they're generating income and revenue for lots and lots of people. If you tax them out of existence, it actually does affect the whole economy.
Well, what was the saying? Poor people pay tax, medium earners pay accountants, and very rich people pay governments. I think the poor people end up spending a lot of their money on tax, and somehow the ultra-rich find a way of getting out of it. If we love this country, then surely we want to invest in it, and invest in it by paying tax.
Is it patriotic to pay more tax? Because it's interesting, this letter is titled Proud to Pay letter. It's been written to Andy Burnham. It's been organised by a campaign group called Patriotic Millionaires UK, and they're saying our fantastic country deserves all of us to get behind it and pay more tax.
Well, what I would say is I think that you want to maximise tax revenue. Sometimes you can overtax people and you end up with less. Genuinely, there are documented cases where this happens. In France, they raised the upper rate to, I think, 50% or even higher. And what happened at that point, I think it was under François Hollande, you just got this mass exodus of French financiers that moved to London, and particular parts of West London became very French almost overnight. And that was actually good news for the British exchequer, but not for the French. I think there are risks sometimes that people are not a finite resource that can be taxed at will, particularly not the super wealthy. In theory, I think people love the idea of taxing this group of people because they obviously have a lot and it's tempting. In practice, it's very, very difficult, and especially in a time when there are many countries that are doing everything they can to welcome these people. I don't think it's necessarily wise for Britain to go all in, and I suspect that would actually backfire and it would create less tax revenue.
Well, they are free to pay as much tax as they like. The Treasury does allow you to do that.
Right, talking of all things of this nature, though, Krish, pubs are getting tax relief from Andy Burnham pretty quickly, it would seem, in all of this. I mean, this is in effect charging people less and expecting this to have a positive benefit to the economy, isn't it?
Well,
our
hospitality industry has been under a lot of stress recently, and I believe that pubs are part of a really important infrastructure. There are a few third places you can go, hang out, get to know your neighbours. So I'm actually a believer in the pub. I'm in the same way I'm a believer in the church. I think it's a great place to meet people that you share a neighbourhood with. So I can understand the desire there, and it does seem to be a place where people are finding it increasingly expensive to go. I can't quote to you the price of a pint. It's been a while since I had one. I was sat in a pub watching all the England games, and that definitely brought something extra to the experience. So this seems like a positive move. But I can see the seeming contradiction around wanting millionaires to pay or billionaires to pay more tax and pubs to pay less.
The thing is that with many of the pub running costs, which, as you rightly say, are very expensive, and it has led to, obviously, that is all reflected in the price of a pint. So much of these costs are artificially imposed by excessive taxation from the government. So actually there is quite a lot that it is in their gift to make life more bearable for publicans who've had a really, really torrid time recently.
No, it has been incredibly rough, actually.
Yeah. Really, really tough. Krish, let's have a look at Andy Tap in the metros. This is a tap-in, tap-out system like we have in London, but across the UK.
Well, I think our public transport system is brilliant every time I go to another country. When I go to America, their public transport system is disastrous. France has been okay.
Italy.
Okay, Italy's a bit risky. I've been late for trains. So I'm grateful for what we've got. I like this idea that you can just take your credit card and tap in anywhere that you need to. You haven't got to buy a ticket. You haven't got a queue. I think Andy did manage to deliver something transformative in Manchester, and the idea of bringing it in across the UK seems really good. We do need a lot of investment in our public transport system. I am sat waiting for trains a lot of the time, but it's still better than America.
I mean, always comes down to this, when often it's older people using things like buses and trains and what have you, don't always have a credit card.
That's true. And I remember it went very quickly when you took the bus to being, you have to have the change.
Yeah.
And ideally the exact correct change to, your change is no good to us, put it away. And I think that transition has been really harsh, as you say, on those who don't have, although I guess the older people have a rail card, sorry, not a rail card, like a pass that they can use, but that's still... There is a danger that if you make everything too high tech, that people are left behind. But it does make a lot of sense. I mean, if you can simplify these things. I'm always a bit worried by how easy it is to pay for things with contactless, because I feel like somehow it doesn't compute, even in the same way that paying chip
magic.
Yeah, it's like it doesn't count. It's free money sometimes. But I think it's a journey that you would have taken anyway. Simplifying it is a no-brainer.
Yeah. I mean, there is a lot to be said for it, but as you say, it's just you've got to make sure it's accessible for everybody.
Yeah.
Now, it's all government, because I don't even know who the Education Secretary is now.
Lucy Powell.
It's Lucy Powell now, is it?
Yeah, it's Lucy Powell.
Besties with Andy Burnham.
I mean, honestly.
It seems like that's not a job that they take very seriously, because it was. I think it's been confirmed that this was a job that they offered to Rachel Reeves as a booby prize for not being Chancellor, and she said no, thank you. So it went to Lucy Powell, and Lucy Powell is someone who's, I don't think, has shown a vast interest in this particular topic in the years that she's been in Parliament, but she's a very close ally of Andy Burnham, so it seemed like she was just being rewarded for that loyalty. So it's a bit worrying to me if such a vitally important brief, perhaps the most important brief, is seen as a kind of a bung to reward somebody.
Is it also worrying to you that she considers spelling tests draconian?
Yes, it is, because there has been there was some pushback to, well, what my boss Michael Gove and Nick Gibb tried to do or did, imposing greater rigour in schools, and this got pushed back at the time. I think that if I'm right, I think that Lucy Powell made this criticism quite a long time ago, and she was saying we need to focus on creativity rather than tests and assessments. That particular way of thinking hasn't aged very well. Standards did improve in Britain through a focus on phonics and focus on rigour. It's possible that this was probably from a long time ago, so she may have updated her thinking, and I hope she has. But
yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It's one of the most important jobs in government. You know, the welfare of our children, whether that's through education or the care system, and the idea we have this rotating door. I think there's a wall in the Department for Education for all the education ministers, and some of them were barely in the job for a few days. You know, so we should take our children more seriously and put a bit of stability into that department.
And the reason that although the Conservatives didn't have a great deal that they could shout about having achieved in office, education was an unambiguous area where we moved up in the rankings.
It's true.
And it was measurably improved. That had a lot to do with the fact that I think Michael Gove was there for a few years at least, but Nick Gibb, the Education Minister, was there for, I think 10 years or a really long time. So he had an opportunity to bed in and really make a positive difference.
Yeah.
Right, you two, thank you very much, Madeline Grant and Dr. Krish Kandaya. Thank you. We'll see you again in the next hour for more papers.
Yeah, more papers coming up. We're also going to be talking a lot more about this new move from the government now, saying they're going to get rid of this 20% or reduce business rates on pubs and other those sort of industries by 20%. What difference will it really make? We'll ask the Tories what they think of it as well in just a moment.
But first, here's your weather.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, it's time for your GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. And now, for a fair few of us today, it is going to be bright and sunny at times, especially towards the southwest. But further north, there will be a bit of rain around. The rain doesn't look especially heavy, but a few outbreaks of mostly light, drizzly rain pushing across some northern western parts of Scotland and perhaps into the far north of Northern Ireland as well. Elsewhere, one or two showers can't be ruled out, but generally it's looking dry, with the greatest amount of sunshine across parts of central, western, southwestern UK. Here we're likely to see temperatures peaking in the high 20s, so the heat wave goes on for some places here. Further north, well, a little bit fresher with temperatures peaking high teens, low 20s, that sort of thing. Into the evening, there will be a few more outbreaks of rain across the far northwest of Scotland. These will edge a bit further south than eastwards as we go overnight, but across eastern parts of Scotland actually having a largely fine end to the day with some decent sunshine. A bit cloudier across Northern Ireland, can't rule out a few spots of rain, but for England and Wales, yes, mostly fine. A bit of cloud here and there, especially towards the east and northeast. Further south and west, holding on to those clearer skies for that little bit longer. Like I said, that rain in the far north does edge a bit further southwards across more parts of Scotland as we go overnight, with some of that rain pushing into Northern Ireland by the time we get to dawn tomorrow morning. But across England and Wales, staying dry and a fairly warm night for many places. Temperatures holding up in the mid to high teens, especially in the towns and cities. The outbreaks of rain across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland, well, there will be a few more of them compared to today. A bit heavier, but still not a huge amount of rain for many places. Eastern parts of Scotland staying dry, and across England and Wales it's staying dry with a decent amount of sunshine. A bit brighter, sunnier than today across eastern parts, and here temperatures edging up a little bit with highs of around 29, possibly 30 Celsius. See you later.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for making GB News Radio such a huge success. Whether you're in the car, on the go or listening at home, thank you for choosing us as your radio station.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M27 westbound is closed between junctions 7 and 5 at Cadnam. There is a collision on the M20 westbound between junctions 6 and 5 in Aylesford. The M4 westbound is affected by a collision between junctions 5 and 6 at Langley. The M6 northbound has a lane closed between junctions 3 and 3A in Coventry. North of the border, the M8 is restricted in both directions between junctions 16 and 18 due to bridge repair works. Across Wales, the A470 southbound from Nantgarv to Corriton is congested with possible delays. And on the trains, cross-country services have no trains between Torquay and Paignton. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
We're celebrating a golden summer with your chance to win a real gold bar. That's right, a fine gold bullion bar worth over £5,000 could be yours. We're also going to make sure your finances are fabulous with £60,000 in tax-free cash. For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
At the stroke of midnight, the news doesn't stop, and neither do we.
Day in, day out. Forget stuffy late-night TV shows. We're giving you a front-row ticket to the centre of the political universe.
Because breaking news doesn't wait for the morning.
And neither do we. Join us for one of the most controversial and volatile times of politics in human history.
A very big story.
Big story over here.
You won't get this anywhere else. The Late Show live at midnight, every night.
Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline.
Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I think GB News is completely unique in the way that we interact with our viewers.
Our audience aren't afraid to have their say. They want their voices heard now, and they've got a channel where that can happen.
I find more and more as I'm wandering around, people come up to me and they say, "We saw you on television." I say, "Oh yes, on what?" "On GB News." "Hello, are you the famous Sue?"
The whole crew with me here now. We came to celebrate. It's our job to be the eyes and ears of the viewers.
They are part of the GB News family, and I'm pleased to say it's a very large family.
And if people go to the time and trouble of listening and watching, then we've got to do a good job for them.
Well, I'm here right in the epicentre of the protest.
Here we go again.
You just tuned in. Where have you been?
It is raucous here tonight.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Morning to you. Andy Burnham gives pubs a boost.
Yes, the new Prime Minister announces that pubs, clubs and music venues will benefit from a 20% cut in business rates.
Big question is, how are they going to pay for it?
Yeah, that support for pubs said to be worth around £1,100 a year for them. The government say they're going to pay for it by increasing taxes on vape shops and other businesses that they say do not provide a positive contribution to local communities.
Backlash mounts over Labour's flagship early prison release scheme, with reports that the new Prime Minister Andy Burnham is set to pause the plan after vowing to investigate the early release of the killers of PC Andrew Harper.
Scottish Labour leader Anna Sarwar accused of hypocrisy after being made a peer by Andy Burnham, despite previously calling for the upper chamber to be axed.
A hosepipe ban is officially in force for millions of Thames Water customers as the economic cost of the heatwave is revealed. Stay tuned for more.
Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua are trading verbal blows as both fighters face tune-up bouts ahead of what's been billed as the biggest UK fight ever. And the Commonwealth Games gets underway in Glasgow this evening. Join me later this hour.
Yes, there's a little bit of light rain across some northern parts today and tomorrow, but further south it's staying dry. There'll be plenty of sunshine and some places getting above those heat wave threshold temperatures. Again, I'll have more details coming up.
It's just gone 8 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Ellie Costello and this is GB News Breakfast.
Right, we're going to start with that breaking news this morning. Andy Burnham set to cut business rates for pubs, clubs and live music venues.
Yes, pubs will receive a 20% reduction in their business rates, which translates to the average saving of around £1,100 a year.
Yeah, OK, let's talk to Will Godley, who's in Westminster for us this morning. I mean, it's a significant move, but is it going to be significant enough, Will?
Well, that's something I'm sure publicans, landlords will be asking themselves this morning. Good morning to you both. Of course, this is this is worth £1,100. So some money, considerable money, but when you're running a business, not a huge amount, not life-changing amounts of money by any stretch of the means. But let's look at this, what this means. So a 20% business rates cuts to pubs, clubs and live music venues, although not the biggest venues in England. It's going to come into force in April, and these 32,000 or so venues will benefit. The government say this is fully funded, and for pubs saving £1,100. In total, though, this package of support worth £100 million. The way the government say they're going to fund it, though, is looking a little bit vague. They say it's going to come through a review of the relief that businesses get, businesses that aren't providing positive contributions to local communities. Apparently that's things like vape shops, the government say. Other outlets reporting that's also things like high street casinos, potentially also things like these American candy shops. Those kinds of businesses could be looking at increased business rates to pay for a business rate cut on pubs. Also, the government say they're cracking down on online marketplaces that do not comply with tax obligations. So perhaps an increase of tax there or a crackdown on them should provide some extra money to pay for this. Now, Andy Burnham has said that his government will back businesses that people want to see in their communities. For too long, governments have stood by while cherished venues have disappeared from our local high streets, and today he says he's changing that. He's visiting a pub a little bit later on. This is the third cost of living measure he's announced in as many days. Kemi Badenoch today will urge him to say that he will rule out any tax rises to pay for what she's calling a spending spree.
OK, Will Godley there for us in Westminster. Thank you very much. Well, we're joined now by Shadow Minister for Policing and Crime, Matt Vickers. Very good morning to you, Mr Vickers. Good to see you again. Should we start with that breaking news that we've had this morning, the third cost of living announcement in as many days of this new Andy Burnham government, this time 20% cut in business rates for pubs, clubs and live music venues. What's your reaction to that? And do you think it's enough to save the Great British Pub?
This is the third unfunded spending commitment in 3 days. The first one was going to be paid for. Do you remember the first one? Day one, he told us he was going to fund that using net zero, basically doing away with costs that didn't actually exist. Digital ID, he said the costs that were associated with digital ID, he was going to scrap it and save all the money. It then turned out from the OBR, from the Chief Secretary of the Treasury, that budget never, ever existed. Yesterday, the Transport Secretary was asked several times to work out how they're going to pay for this £2 cap. No answers. This one, he's going to do a review to find the money. Reviews don't mean money. Reviews mean lots of chit-chat and no answers. When this government came to office, this Labour government, those businesses, all leisure, hospitality and retail businesses on the high streets, those small businesses, were getting a 75% reduction in their business rates. They've took away the 75%, and now he's telling them he's giving them 20% back and he doesn't know how he's going to pay for it. It's pitiful. We need to be realistic in how we support these businesses. Under this Labour government, we've lost about 111,000 jobs in the hospitality sector. The last government created 18,000. This is pitiful. It's a disaster. And those businesses are on the front line. Small businesses going to the wall at the fastest rate since the world economic crash. 19% increase in unemployment. This is a disaster, and this is back of a fag packet job to come up with a policy that should appeal and should make a difference, but it's nowhere near enough. We're offering 100% relief, and we've got the figures to back it up on how we would fund that.
Yeah, but I mean, Kemi Badenoch today will say Andy Burnham's ambitions for Britain are too small. Yet when he's churning out the little stuff at this stage, the little teasers, you're saying, well, he hasn't properly costed it, hasn't properly funded it. He's in week one. It is going to take some time because we know there isn't a proper plan, a proper strategy in place, and we can criticise them for that all we like. But it is going to take some time to come together, isn't it?
The reason Starmer's government was a complete and utter mess, the reason it cost businesses, the reason it cost people their jobs, the reason it's had so many damaging effects on the people across this country is because he arrived in office without a plan. This chap's rocked up, he's disappearing on holiday by the sounds of things, and he hasn't given us a plan. He hasn't been at that dispatch box. What this country needs now is answers on how we're going to fund defence, how we're going to get that welfare spend under control, how we're going to bring down taxes so that businesses can operate without being sent to the wall by this ridiculous burden in terms of tax. And we're not getting any of that. We're getting gimmicks. We're getting back of a fag packet job. And the more you scrutinise any single thing that comes out of his mouth, the more it falls apart. This one's going to be paid for by a review. It's just not a thing. We saw the announcement the other day that it was going to be funded by a budget that didn't exist, in the words of the OBR, and in the words of his own the former Chief Secretary to the Treasury. The Transport Secretary of State yesterday couldn't answer how they're going to fund that £2 bus cap. You can't just make this stuff up. He's in government now. This country needs real solutions to some of the very real problems that we're facing.
Can we talk about the prison early release scheme? Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, yesterday saying that this was a difficult decision that the government had to come to as a result of the inheritance, the crisis that they took on from the Tory party. You'll be familiar with that. But we're also seeing reports this morning on most of the front pages that this scheme is set to be paused and looked at by Andy Burnham. This is in large part thanks to an intervention from the widow of PC Harper, Lizzie, who's described it as deplorable. She says justice, is it just something that we truly believe in, or is it something that can be negotiated away when it becomes inconvenient? She says that her husband and the British public deserve better. What do you make of all of this, Mr Vickers? Do you think that the scheme needs to be paused? Do you think it needs to be U-turned on?
Well, I think Lissy is entirely correct. I remember meeting Lissy when she first started campaigning to get that justice for Andrew. That family have gone through hell. They've campaigned and campaigned to get real justice, not just for Andrew, but for everybody else who works in the emergency services and could face the same sort of outcomes. Now to see this shambolic approach to early release. Already 60,000 people have been released early. In September, we're going to see thousands more released. These aren't just petty criminals. Amongst them are rapists, are paedophiles, are killers, and they're being released onto the streets early. It is not acceptable. I remember Shabana Mahmood standing at this dispatch box in Parliament and proposing this. It is completely wrong. They should be building prison places. Actually, we've seen a reduction in the number of prison places in the last year. Nearly 500 less prison places. Where is all the money going? Welfare. There are less police on our streets, less teachers in our schools, and less places in our prisons because this government is getting its priorities wrong.
Well, look, admittedly, a lot of people don't like the idea of even earlier release for prisoners. Of course they don't. But the reality is, so we're told, that you don't have enough prison places. So something has to be done. You can't build a new prison overnight. And, you know, and whether you want to take responsibility for the, you know, all the time the Tories were in and we didn't build any new prisons or not enough new prisons is neither here nor there at this stage. But you can't do anything overnight, can you? So what are you meant to do in the interim?
So there was pressure on our prison service. It was we made decisions, the right decisions. We made the decision not to release people early during the pandemic on the scale that other countries did. We made the decision, the Conservative government made the decision to toughen up sentences for sexual and violent offenders. Some of those worst offenders went to prison for longer. That was the right decision. Was there pressure on our prison places? Yes, but we embarked on the biggest prison building programme since the Victorian era. 14,000 more prison places. Since this government came to office, they've told us there was pressure. They inherited a problem. What have they done? They've put no plans in place to build any further prison places. And in fact, they've removed around 500 places from the prison system. They are getting their priorities wrong. Pat McFadden said it. The biggest priority for Labour MPs is who they're going to tax more to pay out more in benefits. We need prison places, we need police on our streets, we need teachers in our schools. Their priorities are all wrong. It is absolutely sick that victims of some of the most horrific crimes are getting letters in the post to tell them that their offender is getting released early. That is shambolic. The number one priority of government is to protect the public. They're letting us down.
OK, Matt Vickers, thank you very much for joining us this morning on GB News Breakfast.
It is extraordinary to think someone can be sentenced for a crime and serve only 33% of that sentence. I cannot understand how that can be right.
Could it lead to more crime? Because the deterrent's gone.
Yeah, it's not much of a deterrent, is it, in that sense? I mean, if you think... I mean, certainly in the case of these young men who were sentenced to 13 years for manslaughter, which, I mean, some people did at the time, raised a bit of an eyebrow about, and they're out in 6.
Yeah.
How can, when it's the death, it involves the death of a young police officer, how can that be? I mean, it just doesn't seem right, does it? It doesn't seem morally right.
I think the whole country can agree with that. There's just been outrage at the thought of this. And now we've got Lissy Harper, who's PC Harper's widow, saying this is deplorable. And it seems that it's that intervention that's led Andy Burnham to hit pause. But why should it have to get to that?
Well, that's a very good point. But it's you need someone who's got a bit of a profile, and I mean, not that she has in particular herself, but obviously the death of her husband really shocked the country, and so she has a voice as a result of that. No, it shouldn't take that to happen, but she's putting her head above the parapet. I mean, you've got to really applaud her for coming out, because this will be the last thing she wants to talk about.
Yeah, she talks about she's trying to rebuild her life that was torn apart in just a matter of moments, and she was talking about these young individuals getting a second chance that Andrew will never get.
No. And they will get a second chance. They're not going to be in prison forever, but you expect them to serve a large proportion of what they were sentenced to, and not to be sort of getting out on some sort of scheme just because they need a few more prison places. Of all the people to be released, would you release people guilty of the manslaughter of a police officer? I mean, you just wouldn't, would you?
No, it doesn't seem like common sense, does it? Let us know what you think on that one. gbnews.com/you'll say.
Now, the Prime Minister is facing a familiar dilemma on how to crack down on people smuggling gangs and stop illegal channel crossings.
Well, that challenge has been brought into focus again after 3 boats arrived on Britain's shores yesterday, including one so-called mega dinghy carrying up to 100 people.
Well, former head of Border Control is Tony Smith, and he joins us now. Good morning to you. Look, no one is expecting Andy Burnham to have answers in week 1 when it comes to this, where everyone before him has failed. But what should he be focusing on at a point when we are seeing, say, these substantial crossings yesterday?
Yeah, well, I think what the government will point to is a 40% reduction so far this year over last year. I mean, the proof of the pudding is always the figures, and that is good news. And I think that's partly due to a couple of things. Upstream disruption is better. You know, National Crime Agency more interdictions with customs on small boats and engines getting into northern France in the first place. And I think there was a bit of a wake-up call for the French in the last negotiating round, where they are doing more on the beaches of Calais and Dunkirk and around there to stop crossings on the short strait. So they will point to some successes. But I think ultimately the problem is going to be, and there's always has been ever since this started, is the lack of a removals deterrent, that anybody who makes it into British territorial waters legally can claim asylum, can claim human rights. That really removes our capacity to detain and deport them for a very, very long time. And only a very small number, about 4%, have ever been removed. So the real problem, I think, has always been that people still know that if they can get to the UK from France, that they're going to be allowed in, and there's a very good chance they'll never be sent back.
What do you make of the decision by Andy Burnham to keep Shabana Mahmood in her post as Home Secretary? There was talk, and there was a lot of reporting last week, wasn't there, about her being moved to become the Chancellor in order for Andy Burnham to water down her immigration reform, which is seen by many on the left side of the party as too tough and not fair. Do you think that is a sign of intent from the Andy Burnham government that they do want to be tough on this?
It may be, yes. I've been impressed with Shabana Mahmood, I must say, since she's come in. As you know, they've brought forward a new immigration bill. That seems to be almost an annual event now. But in this one, they are talking about doing some tougher things, like, the route to ILR being much, much longer, more like 10 years, reforming asylum support, looking at Article 8. There's a number of things that Shabana Mahmood is trying to get through. Whether they get through or not, of course, is another matter. But I think she has hit the ground running. This is a complex policy area, and I think she's studied it well and she's worked well. But she can only do what her party allows and her government and her cabinet allows her to do in the end. And what are we going to do about it?
Forgive me, Tony, but on that point, is there anything that you can see that is going to work as well as some sort of proper deterrent?
No, I don't think there is. And that's my point, has been all along. I did support the Rwanda plan, actually, because at least then we could detain and deport quite a lot of these people to a third country. The problem with the nationality mix that are coming across, the vast majority of them cannot be sent back for one reason or another to their own country. And I think that's where we need to focus. We're seeing signs in the EU that they're starting to do that now and sending people to places back like Afghanistan and Syria. I haven't seen that here. And without that third country removal deterrent, or without a deal with France, then they still know that, when they're here, there isn't that detention and removals deterrent. And I think that's the only way, really, you're going to ultimately make a real impact on this. But as I say, they are doing some right things, steps in the right direction, and the numbers are at least going in the right direction.
All right.
OK, Tony, thank you very much.
Interesting, isn't it? Tony says that. I mean, you've got to refer back to people who know the system really, really well and need a deterrent.
We're sending all this money to France, but these boats now quite often are crossing from Belgium.
Yeah, that's a new move, isn't it? I mean,
new move, and they were it's like whack-a-mole.
I was just going to say that. Yeah. It's what it feels like. But the Labour government has said no deterrent, or no Rwanda plan, or anything of that ilk. But
then people within the system, or have been part of the system, saying it's the only way that this is going to be tackled. Let us know what you think.
Right, it is 18 minutes past 8. It's time for the weather with Alex.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good Good morning. It's time for your GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. And now, for a fair few of us today, it is going to be bright and sunny at times, especially towards the southwest. But further north, there will be a bit of rain around. The rain doesn't look especially heavy, but a few outbreaks of mostly light, drizzly rain pushing across some northern western parts of Scotland and perhaps into the far north of Northern Ireland as well. Elsewhere, 1 or 2 showers can't be ruled out, but generally it's looking dry, with the greatest amount of sunshine across parts of central, western, southwestern UK. Here we're likely to see temperatures peaking in the high 20s, so the heat wave goes on for some places here. Further north, well, a little bit fresher with temperatures peaking high teens, low 20s, that sort of thing. Into the evening, there will be a few more outbreaks of rain across the far northwest of Scotland. These will edge a bit further south than eastwards as we go overnight, but across eastern parts of Scotland actually having a largely fine end to the day with some decent sunshine. A bit cloudier across Northern Ireland, can't rule out a few spots of rain, but for England and Wales, yes, mostly fine. A bit of cloud here and there, especially towards the east and northeast. Further south and west, holding on to those clearer skies for that little bit longer. Like I said, that rain in the far north does edge a bit further southwards across more parts of Scotland as we go overnight, with some of that rain pushing into Northern Ireland by the time we get to dawn tomorrow morning. But across England and Wales, staying dry and a fairly warm night for many places, temperatures holding up in the mid to high teens, especially in the towns and cities. The outbreaks of rain across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland, well, there will be a few more of them compared to today. A bit heavier, but still not a huge amount of rain for many places. Eastern parts of Scotland staying dry, and across England and Wales it's staying dry with a decent amount of sunshine, a bit brighter, sunnier than today across eastern parts, and here temperatures edging up a little bit with highs of around 29, possibly 30 Celsius. See you later.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Now, do stay with us. Still to come, Andy Burnham backs the Great British Pub. Or does he? We're going to be debating if his cut to business rates is enough to save struggling pubs in the industry. That's next.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain is not just a geographical expression. We are a people bound together by history and culture that are distinctively British. Join me to celebrate our music, theatre, artworks and literature, which we can explore and enjoy together.
Everybody's welcome.
Sunday with Michael Costello. Every Sunday at 11 a.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Here at GB News, we made a promise to tell your stories. And on the 6th of August, we're marking 5 years of doing exactly that.
Celebrate with us by having your say. Join in the debates live on TV and radio.
And meeting your favourite presenters across the country, from Leeds to Aberdeen, from Belfast to Barry Island.
Plus, join me in Essex for our biggest live show of the year. Scan the QR code or visit gbnews.com/celebrate. Terms and conditions apply.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
We can allow. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
$8.24 now. The Prime Minister says he's going to cut business rates for pubs, clubs and live music venues.
Yes, they will receive a 20% reduction in their business rates, which translates to an average saving of around £1,100 a year.
So, can the new Prime Minister save our British pubs?
Well, joining us to debate this morning is landlord of the New Inn Westfield, Patrick Edwards, and pub landlord of the Bright Star, Guy Richardson. Very good morning to you both. Patrick, let's start with you. Burnham's boost for pubs, is it enough to save the Great British Pub?
It's a start. It's not the biggest help, but it's a start towards helping pubs. So I'll take any money that will save us at the moment.
Guy?
I would probably agree. It is a start. It's a good start. It's certainly very welcome. Is it enough on its own? Not really. Not just yet.
So what do you need to see, Guy, that would really help?
Well, we've been beating the drum for quite some time, I guess, but we've got the cumulative costs of employment, energy bills, insurance, regulation, and ever-changing consumer habits. They're forever changing, and it's something that we've got to live with and battle against.
The cost of employing does seem to be a huge issue. Is that the same for you, Patrick?
Yeah, totally agree. It is. The national insurance doesn't help. That needs to be cut. That could be a big help towards all the pubs and everything, and hospitality in general. I think the biggest one would also be the VAT. Bring us online with Europe. And that would be a big, big help.
I mean, the interesting thing, we talked to a landlord a little bit earlier on, Patrick, who was saying, you need to get rid of the minimum wage, get rid of the NIC increase, get rid of the, forced pension contributions. I mean, all that would be great, but I mean, stuff like that's not realistic, is it, at this stage?
I think some of it could be. Some of it could be realistic if they did get rid of some of that. But also, I think there's a lot more cost to it that could help the general pubs in general. But like I say, 20% is a start.
Guy, do you feel and do you fear that this is too little too late for many pubs up and down this country, that the industry has just been too tough for too long now?
For fear of sounding like the Grim Reaper once again, I think for a lot of pubs it probably is a little bit too late. We've been going, certainly since COVID, on quite a tight sort of shoestrings and budgets, and I think we've been squeezed of recent years to such a degree now that it seems almost very, very difficult just to draw breath even. It is tough out. It's tough for a lot of people out there, and I think that said, it's going to make it even tougher for pubs. Everyone's going to suffer, I think. So, is this around the corner? I don't think so. How long is it going to be? I mean, we're looking at the business rate being next year. Okay, we've got a timeline anyway, but next year's next year, and we've got to see for next year.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Is it fair to say, we were talking to the Tories earlier on, they were saying that in effect, in real terms, Labour upped the business rates you were paying by 75%, and now they've reduced them by 20%, so you're still 55% up on what you were paying. Is that right, Patrick? Is that how you see it?
Yeah, I do see it like that as well, but they brought us online since COVID, and I agree with Guy, we are on a shoestring, and it is tough. I remember when the new business rates came through, I just fell to the floor. But I just think if he can act now on a lot more things, then we've got a chance of staying in hospitality.
Bit of a chance. Well, it's something, as you both say. Patrick, Guy, thanks very much indeed. And we are going to be talking to the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Emma Reynolds, just after 9 o'clock this morning.
Yeah, so we'll put some of those questions to her. Don't want to miss that. In the meantime, I'll just tell you about the Great British Giveaway now, and it's a great prize, £60,000 in tax-free cash and your very own real gold bar. Here are all of the details that you need.
What would you do with £60,000 cash? What would you do with a real gold bar? Well, both have to be won in our Golden Summer celebration. First, there's £60,000 in tax-free cash to bolster your bank account this year. You can spend it on treats, splash out on the family, or just save it for a rainy day. It's entirely up to you. Plus, we'll also give you a fine gold bar worth over £5,000. That's genuine gold that you could gift to a loved one or just lock up in your own personal vault. The gold and the cash really could be yours. For a chance to win £60,000 in tax-free cash and a real gold bar, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yes, good luck.
Sweet has just been in touch, saying, does anyone else feel like Burnham is fiddling around the edges whilst Rome burns? I totally get what you're saying.
And he also said, I think Burnham is attempting to butter up the electorate for a general election late this year or early next year. Lots of views. That is also my theory. I think there's 3 announcements in 3 days. Are we leading up to something here?
It sounds a bit like that, doesn't it?
And it's all giveaways.
The problem you've got with the general election for Andy Burnham is even if he does well in the polls with the Burnham bounce and the giveaways and all the rest of it, he's still going to lose seats.
Yes.
So
at the moment it looks like coalition, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah. But even if he got an outright victory, he would still lose seats on where he is now. So you call it a victory, but you could also call it a loss.
Yeah, it would make things harder for him to pass, wouldn't it?
So I don't know. I can't see why he would do it at this stage. I know he'd give him a mandate and all the rest of it, but why would he risk losing seats? Yes, but I also think if you're setting out your vision in September, 10-year plan, you're going to need a second term, aren't you? Yeah, well, yeah. To get all of that done. Let us know what you think on that. I know lots of you want a general election. But as I think it was Alex saying yesterday, be careful what you wish for. I do think we probably the way it looks at the minute, we'd end up with a hung parliament. Yeah. And then how would that work? I mean, I just don't know. Anyway, keep those people criticise me, on here for saying, "Oh, Stephen always says he just doesn't know." Well, I don't know. I don't. It's good to be honest. It's better to say that than. It's impossible to tell, isn't it? As much as we might want a party with winning an election. Whoever it is, for a bit of stability for the country, it's looking unlikely that would happen at the moment. Yeah, exactly. Right, if you are travelling to work or school this morning, here's your traffic and travel update.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. There is a collision on the M27 westbound between junctions 3 and 2 in Romsey, causing slow traffic. The M27 is closed at junction 2 in Romsey from junction 2 to the A31 and A338. A collision on the M20 westbound at junction 6 in Maidstone East is causing delays. North of the border, the A83 is restricted both ways at Lochnell Street in Lochgilphead due to emergency roadworks. Across Wales, the A470 southbound from Nantgar to Corriton is congested with possible delays. And on the trains, cross-country services have no trains between Torquay and Paignton. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Sport heading away in just a moment. Aidan?
Yes, indeed. Anthony Joshua makes his return to the ring for the first time since the horror smash in December, which killed 2 of his friends, as he looks ahead to a super fight with fellow Brit Tyson Fury. We'll discuss that and more after the break.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
The Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong Tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is-
you're
the failure is-
deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
To all of you who voted for GB News to win at the Trick Awards for the 4th year in a row.
The winner is GB News.
Thank you so much for voting for us. It's because of you that we're so proud to be the People's Channel, and it's because of you that we are Britain's news channel.
It's voted for the people who watch us.
Well, we've got the best viewers in the world, haven't we? The most loyal viewers.
Thank you.
Are you ready for a tune-up?
A tune-up?
I'm ready for a tune-up. Aidan McGee's
Do you even
here.
know what a tune-up is?
A tune-up fight?
Yeah?
Yeah, of course I do.
Go on, what is it?
Well, it's when you sort of, you're getting the fight, you're prepping yourself ready for the big match.
Oh, well, there you go.
How do you know that? Who told you that? Oh, yeah, I did it last hour.
It doesn't,
He knows everything.
it doesn't take a genius to work that out.
No,
A tune-up,
true.
come on.
But it's a new phrase in British sport. I mean, a couple of years ago, no one would ever have heard of it. But that's exactly what is happening to, or for, Anthony Joshua this weekend and Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury is first out of the blocks tomorrow, 4 p.m. British time in Thailand. Really strange because it doesn't really fit playing. He always wanted to fight in Thailand, but it doesn't really fit the UK audience or US audience time-wise because of the time zone. So it's not actually being shown on television at all. But if he's going to treat it as a tune-up fight, just to get some practice in ahead of the big one later in the year, then if it serves the purpose, then who's to ask any further questions than that? Anthony Joshua, meanwhile, is stepping into the ring for the first time since that crash which killed two of his friends in Lagos back in December. Remember, 10 days before that, he fought Jake Paul as well, beating him relatively easy, 5 or 6 rounds rounds in, if you remember. But I would argue, Ellie, before that, when was his last fight? I mean, this is why they're having these tune-up fights, because they've not really been put to the test to any great degree prior to the fight that's going to happen later in the year. We think it's going to happen around about November, December time. We don't know where it's going to be. There's been discussions over it being possibly in Ireland at Croke Park. I think that's one's pretty much off the table. If it's going to be the biggest UK fight ever, I think there's symmetry to the fact that it should really happen at Wembley Stadium, but ultimately it will go where the money is. Frank Warren will be on the show tomorrow talking about it, actually. And Anthony Joshua, as for him, well, look, he's got plenty to prove, but in terms of this fight, you asked me in the break who's going to win. Well, who knows, because we don't know what shape they're going to be in when they step in the ring later in the year, because this fight, frankly, should have happened 6 or 7 years ago. To be fair, I think COVID had an influence on that. That's probably the time when both fighters were at their peak and when the fight should have happened, but it didn't because of unforeseen circumstances. But when it gets underway later in the year, which will happen, then I think it's going to be a fantastic fight. And I think it will justifiably be the biggest UK fight ever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who's your money on? Who's
Fury?
Fury. It's got to be Fury, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think Fury as well. Yeah, I think he's a better fighter, better boxer. But you know, Anthony, you can't quite write him off.
Oh, you can't write him off.
No.
It'll be a great watch, won't it?
It will.
Can we just mention the Commonwealth Games opening ceremonies today? I feel like there hasn't been much fanfare, much build-up.
Well, no, there hasn't, because quite simply, nobody appears to want to hold it. I'm not criticising Glasgow here, because they did a fantastic job back in 2014, and they've stepped in to save the day, actually, because although it's not going to be the event that they had back in 2014 when 50, 60,000 people were watching and records were broken and the record number of athletes competed. This time, 11,000 is going to be the kind of maximum capacity. It's being held, Ellie, over 4 venues. As you said last hour, quite rightly, most of it's going to be indoor. Now, the background to this, the backstory is that the Melbourne state of Victoria was going to host it 4 or 5 years ago. They announced they were going to hold it in 2026. In 2023, they pulled out because the mayor did some calculations, hopefully not on the back of a fag packet, hopefully something a bit more forensic, but he came up with the idea, he surmised that it was going to cost £1.35 billion to host it, and actually the real cost was going to be something like 3.1 billion, more than 2.5 times the cost, Stephen, and the material benefits to the state of holding it in terms of ticketing, in terms of just the boost to the economy, was nothing like the outlays. It's turning into Eurovision, isn't it?
Yeah, so how's that working out for Glasgow then? Well,
they're holding it's a scaled-back event. They're not building anything. They're holding it in facilities that are already there. If you look at the World Cup, for example, in 2026, or the one just gone, the reason it was successful, the reason FIFA are going to burst through their original projection of $13 billion is because they haven't had to build anything. The stadium is already there, the facility is already there, and that's the future of holding these events, I fear.
So will we make a profit out of it?
Well, who make a profit out of it?
Well, Glasgow or the UK.
I don't. The answer to that is I don't know. But if they can break even, I think everyone can go home happy. I really do, because I don't see how. I have a feeling that this event is dying on its backside. We're seeing that these events are so expensive to host now, and even at the World Cup, I mean, the organisations or the organising committees locally are paying to host these events. So if they're paying for it, and it goes for all kinds of sporting events, they've got to get a return on investment, and that's getting harder and harder.
Yeah. Ooh, all right, Aidan, thank you. Have we got time for one little more? A little what do you fancy?
Tiddler.
Yeah, a little tiddler.
Arsenal, big setback for them. William Saliba out with a back injury for an extended period of time. When a club says that, trust me, it means that they either don't know because it's that bad, or at the very least, it's going to be a long, long time. I wouldn't expect to see him back until the new year, and that's a great shame because it happened on international duty, and Arsenal will be very unhappy about that. At least if he gets injured, let it be on their watch, not on someone else's.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point.
They're paying the money.
Thank you. See you tomorrow.
Thanks, Aidan.
See you tomorrow.
Now, do stay with us. Still to come, there's a new trend among brides and grooms, and it involves using AI. Can you guess what it is?
Not got a clue.
No, neither do I. But we're going to find out. In the papers with Madeline Grant and Dr. Krish Kandaya. Morning, you two. Chat to you in just a second.
First, so here's the European forecast.
I hope we haven't forgotten anything.
Travel insurance, I tick that box.
Yeah, but remember what you forgot last year.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
There's some mixed weather across parts of Europe at the moment. We have a heat wave affecting western parts. This will ease into the weekend, but for the time being, temperatures for some around 5 to 10 degrees above average. Some places getting into the high 30s, low 40s perhaps. Eastern Spain into North Africa as well. Then further east, well, across parts of Greece and nearby nations, we have some intense thundery downpours. 75 millimetres of rain in just a few hours. Large hail, gusty winds could cause some problems.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Olympian Sharon Davies. Sharon, thanks so much for joining us this morning. I think this is preposterous that we're banning Sports Day for kids, and our viewers are obviously also thinking this is completely bonkers. But is there a case to be made that perhaps we should be looking after young people when the heat is quite extreme in many people's cases, they'll say? What do you think, Sharon?
I think looking after our kids is making them resilient and giving them a sports day. I mean, sport in schools has been relegated year on year on year, and it's so depressing. You know, it's such an important part of young people's lives. Give them a hat, give them some sunscreen, make sure they're drinking plenty of water, stick them in the shade when they're not, actually having a little race. This is all about just kids getting used to life, and wrapping them in cotton wool is not the answer.
The People's Channel. Britain's newsroom. Weekday mornings from 9:30.
So you go along to the car showroom and only like 10%, at most maybe 15%, pay cash. The rest buy on some form of financing. And you often buy, it's a bit like a mortgage, and it's like buying a mortgage from the estate agent, which we all know is a terribly bad idea. Yeah. But this is what people did. And the scandal is, the guys in the showroom were acting as dealers and brokers, and they were in many cases inflating the interest rate that you paid so that they could get bigger commission. And they didn't declare that. So you basically ended up paying more for your car than you would otherwise have done if you'd gone into the open market and found yourself, a better deal.
How did that come to light?
Well, over many years. I mean, this has been going on since 2007.
GB News, the People's Channel. GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Ruth Ellis was executed on the 13th of July 1955. She was convicted of murdering a partner, David Blakely. There's been a long campaign about what to do about all of that. She has now had a conditional pardon, which would mean she would have been sentenced to life rather than sentenced to death. So it's a significant move, but what do her family make of it? Well, her grandson, Stephen Beard, is here alongside solicitor Grace Horton. Good to see you both this morning. I mean, look, from a family perspective, Stephen, what does this mean?
It's huge. It was a monumental day yesterday. In essence, it's the removal of a negative blotch in our family history. We have effectively rewritten history because ultimately, for the last 70-odd years, the truth hasn't been known.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Right, we're going through the papers with assistant editor and parliamentary sketch writer at The Spectator, Madeline Grant, and founder of the Sanctuary Foundation, Krish Kandaya. Good to see you both. Let's start with Madeline. Being reported that there's going to be a public memorial later this year for Anne Widdecombe.
Yes. The BBC is reporting this, that the family are, as you would expect, going to plan a private memorial that will happen sooner this year that is just for Anne's family and closest friends. But they will have a larger public memorial, which would be, I guess, an opportunity for not just more of her colleagues in the Reform Party and her former colleagues in the Tory Party, but I suppose members of the public to come and at least pay their respects.
It's very odd with Anne Widdecombe. I can't get my head around the fact she's dead, to be perfectly honest. But also because, although she was deeply political, it sort of didn't matter. Do you know what I mean? It didn't matter if you agreed with her or not to like her.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of people that knew her personally that didn't agree politically with her, but found her a very genuine, gracious person. And the nation felt they knew her through Strictly Come Dancing, didn't they?
Yes.
So Yeah, and it must be so hard reading the reports yesterday of the kind of how she died, how she spent those last moments of her life.
Yeah, it's just unspeakable. And the idea that somehow the idea of Anne Widdecombe, you know, such a long-standing politician who was acclaimed for her principle, you know, the fact that unlike so many politicians today, she said her belief, and everything she said was what she believed, and she was willing to explain why she thought what she thought, and she was willing to debate anybody, even if they disagreed with her. And you compare this with politicians increasingly now trying to escape scrutiny and not answer questions. Just an incredible, upstanding individual in public life, and just to have been murdered in such a senseless way, it makes me think there's something very dark going on in our country at the moment.
Yeah.
It's just awful, isn't it? Krish, let's have a look at the Daily Star, shall we? Small boats are back.
Yes, there's been 11 days without a small boat crossing. That's due to conditions at sea, but it looks like things are changing.
Forgive me for interrupting. If we can get you just to sit up slightly.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Only because your mic is rubbing against your tie.
Oh.
So all it is.
Maybe I won't wear a tie next time.
Fine, but it's just
No, a tie is nice and smart.
No, don't listen to Andy Burnham. Wear your tie.
There you go. All right.
Tie with pride.
Excellent. 11 days, no crossings because of the conditions, but it looks like the crossings will begin. Andy Burnham kept Shabana Mahmood in place, which for some parts of the Labour Party was controversial. I'm actually a fan of one thing that Shabana Mahmood has promised, which is a named community sponsorship scheme, similar to what we did for Ukraine, where people don't have to get into a small boat. They can apply for asylum from the country they're in, and a local community can commit to welcoming them. That seems a far better way than people arriving under their own steam.
Well, yeah, but again, it's the whole... The small boats needs to stop completely, doesn't it? Because, I mean, the big problem you've got, and I know there's a big argument to say there needs to be legal pathways, and that, you know, we need to look more clearly at how they are defined and how people can access them to go through, you know, to apply through the system. The problem is with the small boat issue is, yes, there will be some people who are trying to get here for what you would call the right reasons, but there are far too many who aren't. It seems to be illegal migration. It seems to be young men of a fighting age. It seems to be people throwing their passports and phones into the channel as they're crossing. And you've got to ask, why would that be happening?
Sure, I think we can agree that small boat crossings need to stop. You know, the people that are running them are criminals. They're exploiting vulnerable people. So I think we're agreed on that. It does seem that once there are legal routes in place, like they were in America, a lot of the southern border crossings stopped because people had a queue they could join, and they would lose that opportunity if they came under their own steam. So I think there's a benefit for a legal and safe route, and I'm with you that let's crush the criminal gangs that are running those small boats.
Madeline, let's take a look at the Eye, shall we, this morning. We've just heard our third announcement in as many days from the new Andy Burnham government, and the Shadow Chancellor is asking one big question. Where's the money coming from?
Yes, as you would expect, Sir Mel Stride has accused the government of being so far unable to explain where the finances for their various policy announcements are coming from. The slightly, I think, embarrassing beginning for Burnham. The first policy you unveil very quickly goes belly up when it turns out that it is, in fact, uncosted. And firstly, it doesn't speak very highly of Keir Starmer's government that they had a flagship policy, digital ID, that was itself unfunded. But it also seems rather amateurish of Burnham and his team. And I think this particular criticism is not going away because there has been... You know, I think it's fair to say Burnham is perhaps the least scrutinised Prime Minister we've ever had. You know, his ascent has been rapid, and it has, I think, quite conveniently for the Labour Party, coincided with the end of the parliamentary session. So he's come in just in time to miss even answering a single day's questions in Parliament, and his party have been doing everything they can to prevent a debate from happening in the Commons and then voting against a debate that would have happened in the Lords, which they did on Tuesday. So I think these questions are not going away, and especially... because in lieu of proper parliamentary scrutiny, what we're going to get is a summer of announcements, some of which may or may not come to pass. They'll be trailed in the media, and perhaps some of that will be to test the idea and see how people respond. So it seems to me a very insufficient way to go about government business.
Well, we'll ask the government how that's going on in about 5 minutes.
Good luck
or so.
with that.
Yeah, well, I'm not expecting particularly many answers on that. Let's just finish off with the Telegraph, should we, Krish? Because what is becoming common at weddings?
Well, it seems that the bride and the groom are using AI to write their speeches. 3 of my kids got married in the last 9 months, so I've listened to a lot of speeches, and I'm pretty sure I could spot AI.
But your kids
Totally
your
right.
kids would never AI.
They would. Well, I'd hope not. I mean, look, the speeches are my favourite part of the wedding.
I
People
love a
are
speech
so
wedding.
lovely. They say things that we should say more often. We express appreciation. I guess you could use AI to help you with your pronunciation and your punctuation.
People are rubbish at speeches, though. They're rubbish at writing them is not their forte.
Is it genuine, though, if you're using AI?
I'm just trying to be defensive.
I know you are. But I went to a wedding recently where it was very, very obvious that the groom had used AI to
really? What was the tell? How could you tell?
Well, he'd actually sent a draft copy to my husband, and it had those dashes.
Oh, and emojis? Emojis as well, or not?
It was very, very obvious that it had been run through some sort of generator.
Are there particular tells? It's when you spend a bit of time talking to Claude or whatever, which I sometimes do, not with my column, but to check what I've written. There are these tells, and you just tell.
Can't get away with it.
Yeah.
Grish, Madeline, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right, here's your weather.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, it's time for your GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. And now, for a fair few of us today, it is going to be bright and sunny at times, especially towards the southwest. But further north, there will be a bit of rain around. The rain doesn't look especially heavy, but a few outbreaks of mostly light, drizzly rain pushing across some northern western parts of Scotland and perhaps into the far north of Northern Ireland as well. Elsewhere, 1 or 2 showers can't be ruled out, but generally it's looking dry, with the greatest amount of sunshine across parts of central, western, southwestern UK. Here we're likely to see temperatures peaking in the high 20s, so the heat wave goes on for some places here. Further north, well, a little bit fresher with temperatures peaking high teens, low 20s, that sort of thing. Into the evening, there will be a few more outbreaks of rain across the far northwest of Scotland. These will edge a bit further south than eastwards as we go overnight, but across eastern parts of Scotland actually having a largely fine end to the day with some decent sunshine. A bit cloudier across Northern Ireland, can't rule out a few spots of rain, but for England and Wales, yes, mostly fine. A bit of cloud here and there, especially towards the east and northeast. Further south and west, holding on to those clearer skies for that little bit longer. Like I said, that rain in the far north does edge a bit further southwards across more parts of Scotland as we go overnight, with some of that rain pushing into Northern Ireland by the time we get to dawn tomorrow morning. But across England and Wales, staying dry and a fairly warm night for many places, temperatures holding up in the mid to high teens, especially in the towns and cities. The outbreaks of rain across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland, well, there will be a few more of them compared to today. A bit heavier, but still not a huge amount of rain for many places. Eastern parts of Scotland staying dry, and across England and Wales it's staying dry with a decent amount of sunshine, a bit brighter, sunnier than today across eastern parts, and here temperatures edging up a little bit with highs of around 29, possibly 30 Celsius. See you later.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News each and every week.
This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Drivers on Birmingham's M42-M6 Link Road may face disruptions due to lane restrictions from M6 Junction 4A southbound to M42 Junction 8. In Kent, roadworks close the M20 Junction 8 eastbound slip road. Northamptonshire's M1 southbound within Junction 18 restricts one lane. Berkshire's M40 northbound between Junctions 4 and 5 has closures. Cheshire West and Chester have M56 issues from M53 southbound Junction 11. Salford's M60 eastbound between Junctions 1 and 2 restricts lanes. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
What would you do with £60,000 cash? What would you do with a real gold bar? Well, both have to be won in our Golden Summer celebration. First, there's £60,000 in tax-free cash to bolster your bank account this year. Plus, we'll also give you a fine gold bar worth over £5,000. For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline.
Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Andy Burnham gives pubs a boost.
Yes, the new Prime Minister announces that pubs, clubs and music venues will benefit from a 20% cut in business rates.
Question remains, though, how are you going to pay for it? Well, the Shadow Policing Minister, Matt Vickers, raised that concern earlier on in the show.
This is the third unfunded spending commitment in 3 days.
Well, publicans have told us it's a welcome start for them. Support worth £1,100 a year for the typical pub. How are the government going to pay for it? Well, they said it's coming through a review of businesses, of things like vape shops, businesses that do not make a positive contribution to local communities.
Backlash is mounting over Labour's flagship early prison release scheme, with reports that the new Prime Minister Andy Burnham is set to pause the plan after vowing to investigate the early release of the killers of PC Andrew Harper.
A hosepipe ban is in force now for millions of Thames Water customers as the economic cost of the heatwave is revealed.
The opening ceremony for the Commonwealth Games takes place in Glasgow today, with the King and Queen due to attend.
Well, after the Australian state of Victoria pulled out of hosting the Games, quoting spiralling costs, Glasgow stepped up, and now all eyes are on Scotland's largest city to see whether a slimmed-down Games can still hold audience attentions.
Yes, there's a little bit of light rain across some northern parts today and tomorrow, but further south it's staying dry. There'll be plenty of sunshine and some places getting above those heat wave threshold temperatures. Again, I'll have more details coming up.
It's just gone 9 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Right, that breaking news this morning then, and we are getting announcements every day from the new government, aren't we? Andy Burnham set to cut business rates for pubs, clubs and live music venues.
Well, pubs will receive a 20% reduction in their business rates, which translates to an average saving of around £1,100 a year.
Well, it's being welcomed, broadly speaking, by the hospitality industry, which has faced significant rising costs, but how's it going to be paid for?
Well, we're joined now by our national reporter, Will Godley. The third announcement in just as many days, Will, but the big question remains, doesn't it? How's it going to be funded?
Yeah, lots of those questions have been asked of the government in the last 3 days because 3 cost of living announcements, and this is the latest one, this relief to pubs. And we've been speaking on the show this morning to publicans and landlords. Many of them have said it's a welcome start for them, but is by no means going to change their lives or solve all of their problems. This package of support worth for the typical pub in England around £1,100. Not just pubs, though, benefiting from this, also clubs and live music venues. In total, the government estimate around 32,000 venues going to benefit from this 20% cut to business rates, although the very biggest live music venues are exempt from this. The government say this plan is fully funded. They say it will cost around £100 million a year, and this support comes into place from April. Now, how are they going to pay for it? That's the question everybody's asking today, and in truth, the way they're going to pay for it seems a little bit vague. No doubt they'll want to drill into the details when it comes to the budget, and we'll have more details, I'm sure, in the autumn. But what they said so far is there's going to be a review into businesses that do not provide a positive contribution to local communities. They're going to be reviewing the taxes and also the reliefs that they get, and the only example of these kinds of businesses that they've given is vape shops. So when we hear from the government a little bit later on this morning, it'll be interesting to hear if they give any further examples of what businesses they consider to not provide any positive contributions, and whether this means a rise in business rates for them. The government this morning also saying they're going to be cracking down on online marketplaces that do not oblige with the tax regulations. All of that they hope will make up this £100 million to pay for this scheme. Of course, good news then for pubs, but it's the third cost of living measure in as many days. Now, Kemi Badenoch today setting out her response to Andy Burnham's cost of living pledges. He says it will provide breathing space. Kemi Badenoch is calling it a spending spree. She wants Andy Burnham today to rule out any tax rises when it comes to making these spending commitments.
OK, Will, thanks very much indeed.
Now, at 9:05, from today, 10 million Thames Water customers are subject to a hosepipe ban following the recent hot weather.
Well, the restriction means those affected can't use a hosepipe to water their gardens, wash their cars or fill paddling pools. You can still use watering cans and things, or buckets for the car.
That's what I've been doing. Out of my watering can every day.
Have you?
Yeah. Well, joining us now is singer and environmentalist Fergal Sharkey. Very good morning to you, Fergal. This is going to affect millions of people now. Are there ways to get around this? What ways can you still use your hosepipe?
Good morning. This, for me, is just another indication of is the utter failure of the industry to make the investment needed, the failure of regulation. London now is number 9 on the list of global cities most likely to run out of drinking water. We shouldn't even be facing this situation. Bearing in mind the industry leak 1 trillion litres of water per year from their badly maintained, underinvested, cracked old network of pipes. The reality is this was all forecast, it was totally foreseeable, and governments, regulators and the industry did little of anything. So now we have Thames Water, Southern Water, Affinity Water, Yorkshire Water, Anglian Water, and I suspect by the end of the summer, most of the country will be operating under a hosepipe ban. It's just another angle of the, for me, criminal fraud that's been perpetrated upon the people of England and Wales by the water industry.
When you put it like that, it is shocking. We've come to expect it, Fergal, haven't we? That we're going to face these hosepipe bans in the summer. But as you say, when you look at the amount of water that is actually just leaking out of our systems, if we actually stop those leaks, we'd have enough water to do what we wanted with.
Correct. The position currently is, according to the Environment Agency, we per day within the next 25 years. That's about almost getting on for 40% more water than we currently have available. And the response by the industry, the response by regulators has quite frankly been appalling. It's been lackluster, it's been incompetent, if not showing some form of disinterest. What actually needs to happen right now is we need somebody in charge. We need somebody with the drive, the ambition, and we need leadership, and we need urgency. And so far, I've seen neither from regulators or the industry itself.
All right, Fergal, we've got to leave it there, but really good to talk to you this morning. Thank you.
Pleasure's mine. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Sorry for the audio on that line. We're having a few technical difficulties, weren't we?
It's really hard because I know Fergal's, is a serious campaigner, he's a serious man with some serious points to make, but I still want him to sing.
I know.
It's really hard not to ask him to belt out a quick
Maybe if the line
line
was working a bit better, we could have asked him. Next time.
That would probably really irritate him. He's probably fed up of singing that song, but it was such a good song.
Yeah. Now it's just time to tell you about the Great British Giveaway, your chance to win big in a big celebration for the summer.
Very big, isn't it?
Very big. £60,000 in tax-free cash.
That's big.
And a real gold bar.
That's even bigger.
Here are all the details that you need.
We're celebrating a golden summer with your chance to win a real gold bar. That's right, a fine gold bullion bar worth over £5,000 could be yours. That's gold that you could keep, trade in, or gift to a loved one to secure their financial future. We're also going to make sure your finances are fabulous with £60,000 in tax-free cash that you can spend on anything you like. And because it's tax-free, every single penny of it will be yours. So don't miss out. For a chance to win £60,000 in tax-free cash and a real gold bar, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yes, good luck.
Do you remember when the Commonwealth Games was a really big thing?
Yes.
It was huge.
There's less fanfare around it now, isn't there?
Well, it's starting tonight in Glasgow. I had no idea until this morning. It was actually happening.
I knew earlier this week, but before that, nothing.
No, well, the King and Queen are going to be there for the opening ceremony, which is good. But should we get more details from our Scotland reporter, Tony Maguire, who's in Glasgow for us? I mean, it's very much scaled down, isn't it, Tony?
Yeah, good morning. It's very much scaled down, as you said, and naturally as a result of the Australian state of Victoria in 2023. They pulled out of hosting the Games, citing spiralling costs off the back of the pandemic. And the Commonwealth Games Authority asked who wants it then, and nobody put their hands up except Glasgow eventually, on the condition that they would spend no public money and that it would be a scaled down event. And that is indeed what we're getting starting today. 74 nations and territories, 3,000 athletes with just 10 sports at 4 different venues across Scotland's largest city. And many people are wondering whether this perhaps spells the beginning of the end for the Commonwealth Games. But nevertheless, although lots of people are, being the typical cynics that we are in the media, I think a lot of people want this to succeed and want perhaps see this scaled down version of the Games being, a sustainable future for it. Here in Glasgow, it's a very windy day. It's a good day if you are a flag, and of course there is the 74 up there above me. But I think tonight we're going to see the King and Queen arrive at the opening ceremony. They'll meet some of the athletes, as well as Andy Burnham, our new Prime Minister, and he'll be meeting with the devolved leaders of Scotland and Wales here as well. But I think tonight we're going to see quite a few Scottish artists and a real taste of what the next 11 days have in store. Back in 2014, of course, Glasgow hosted the Games then. Then it was a huge festival city, and you couldn't move without athletes, fans, fan zones. This year there's really just one major fan zone, and that is over in Kelvingrove Park park, and that's focused on kids with sports, activities, and of course screens for adults to watch the games. But very, very different feel to this games. But as I say, although a lot of people are feeling a bit cynical, many really, really want this to succeed.
What about in the local area, Tony? What about in Glasgow, where you are right now? Are you getting a sense that there's been this build-up, there's been this excitement, there has been this fanfare? Have we just not felt it across the country?
No, I think actually what you've described there is kind of ubiquitous across the country, and I think that's very much because, or at least in part, because the BBC actually, dropped the ball, frankly, this year in terms of the televised rights. The games will now only really be shown in TNT Sports and HBO Max, which is an unusual combination. That is, TNT is about a $5 a month far cry from the national broadcaster, and indeed Channel 5, they will be hosting the opening ceremony tonight, and apart from that, just extended highlights clips. So, while there are more national broadcasters going to be showing the sports and showing the games, I think the lack of adverts, the lack of promotion is much in part because the complete different media landscape that's going to be carrying the games this year.
All right, Tony, thanks very much indeed.
Thanks, Tony. Now, do stay with us still to come. The big question, how is Andy Burnham going to fund the tax cuts for pubs? We're going to be putting that to the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Emma Reynolds. That's up next.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Here at GB News, we made a promise to tell your stories. And on the 6th of August, we're marking 5 years of doing exactly that.
Celebrate with us by having your say. Join in the debates live on TV and radio.
And meeting your favourite presenters across the country, from Leeds to Aberdeen, from Belfast to Barry Island.
Plus, join me in Essex for our biggest live show of the year. Scan the QR code or visit gbnews.com/celebrate. Terms and conditions apply.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain is not just a geographical expression. We are a people bound together by history and culture that are distinctively British. Join me to celebrate our music, theatre, artworks and literature, which we can explore and enjoy together.
Everybody's welcome.
Sunday with Michael Costello. Every Sunday at 11 a.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK. Oh, thank you.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter? So that's a very live question. Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Right, it's 17 minutes past 9. Should we talk about Andy Burnham's latest bit of breaking news this morning? 20% reduction in business rates for pubs, clubs and live music venues. Let's talk to the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Emma Reynolds. Good morning to you. Big question on everyone's lips.
Good morning.
How'd you pay for it?
So, yes, we're announcing this 20% cut on business rates for clubs and pubs and live music venues, as you said, and we're going to pay for this in two principal ways. The first is that we're going to review the business rate relief on those businesses on the high street that cause social harm, such as vape shops, and the second way is that we're going to crack down on those online businesses that at the moment are not paying VAT and should be. This has been a problem for some time, and we're consulting at the moment on the best way to tackle that, but that will also raise revenue. We will set out those details in the budget, but this will be fully funded.
But that's a review of and clamping down. That's not cold hard cash, is it? This is just pie in the sky thinking.
Yes, that will result in hard cash, and as Chief Secretary of the Treasury, who I'm in charge of the money these days, then I can reassure you that it will result in revenue raising, and the new policy will come in April next year and cost around £100 million a year.
Why are vape shops causing social harm?
Well, vapes are something that causes social harm. We know that too many young people are attracted to vaping, and we don't fully know the long-term health implications of vaping either. I think when they were initially introduced, they were thought of as a healthier alternative to smoking. I think that perhaps given the scientific evidence, we are reviewing whether that is the case, and we know that there are plenty of young people who are attracted to vapes who might not be tempted to smoke in the first place.
We've talked to a lot of publicans this morning. I mean, one thing, and to be fair, they say, great, it's a step in the right direction, but it's nowhere near enough to actually help them out. I mean, and one of the big issues is business rates. So you're reducing them by 20%, but they went up by 75% under this government. So, in fact, they're still seeing an increase of 55% over the past couple of years.
Well, the announcement today of the 20% cut is in addition to a 15% cut that came in already in April and a £4 billion support package which was announced by the previous Chancellor in January this year that capped bill increases, and also at the budget we announced a freeze on bills from next year too. So there are a number of measures here which will help pubs, and we know that pubs have been under tremendous pressure and that we've seen 7,000 pubs close since 2010. So, and this is the start of us making sure that we help these businesses that are the beating heart of our communities, that bring people together. Andy Burnham is prioritising these businesses in a way that he did when he was Mayor of Manchester, and it shows an intent by this government to help these sort of community assets, if you like, to thrive. We've all been to the pub recently, haven't we, to watch the football, but we want these pubs and live music venues and clubs to thrive all year round.
Can I ask you about the controversial early release scheme? We've got reports in many of the papers today that Andy Burnham's government is going to hit pause on these plans, and it looks as though that's in large part down to the intervention of the widow of PC Harper, Lizzie, who has described the scheme as deplorable. She says that the British people and her late husband deserve better. Why has it taken the intervention of a widow of a brave PC who died in the line of action and in the line of duty for Andy Burnham's government to think twice about the release of these dangerous people?
Well, let me first say that my heart goes out to both the widow and mum and family of PC Andrew Harper. This is a horrific crime, and, you know, really reminds us that brave policemen and women run towards danger when we rightly run away from it. The driver in this case would be excluded from this scheme, but I just wanted to say something about the background to this policy, because I think it is worth bearing in mind that 2 years ago, when the Labour government came to power, Shabana Mahmood was the Justice Secretary at the time, and she rightly put this at the top of her in tray. We have been building prison places at the fastest rate since the Victorian times and 40 times faster than the previous Conservative administration, and we inherited a prison estate at absolute crisis with fewer than 100 places available in July 2 years ago.
Yeah, but the issue you've got is it's all, you know, people may not like it, but the early release of some prisoners, perhaps people can understand. It's the fact, but not prisoners of this time, not prisoners who've been convicted of the manslaughter of a police officer. I mean, that shouldn't be happening, should it?
Well, it's for the courts to determine the most dangerous criminals who will be excluded from this policy. But as the Prime Minister has said, he and the Justice Secretary will look again at the implementation of this policy. But, you know, there will be continuing punishment in the community for those offenders with an additional use of tags and restriction orders on their liberty, and for anybody who breaks the rules, they will be put back into prison. But we do need a system that works, that enables police officers to arrest people and then put them in prison. So we had this awful prison crisis that we inherited, and we have been straining every sinew to build as many prison places as possible. And as I said, we've built many, many prison places, but it's very difficult within a short period to build our way out of this problem.
OK, Emma Reynolds, I'm afraid we're out of time with you this morning, but thank you very much for joining us on GB News Breakfast.
Right, still to come, Andrew and Miriam, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning. What have you got for us?
Well, this is a big story, isn't it? It's the biggest story of the day, prison places. And they've created 3,200 prison places since the election. Not enough.
Well, all coming up after your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, it's time for your GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. And now, for a fair few of us today, it is going to be bright and sunny at times, especially towards the southwest. But further north, there will be a bit of rain around. The rain doesn't look especially heavy, but a few outbreaks of mostly light, drizzly rain pushing across some northern western parts of Scotland and perhaps into the far north of Northern Ireland as well. Elsewhere, one or two showers can't be ruled out, but generally it's looking dry, with the greatest amount of sunshine across parts of central, western, southwestern UK. Here we're likely to see temperatures peaking in the high 20s, so the heat wave goes on for some places here. Further north, well, a little bit fresher with temperatures peaking high teens, low 20s, that sort of thing. Into the evening, there will be a few more outbreaks of rain across the far northwest of Scotland. These will edge a bit further south than eastwards as we go overnight, but across eastern parts of Scotland actually having a largely fine end to the day with some decent sunshine. A bit cloudier across Northern Ireland, can't rule out a few spots of rain, but for England and Wales, yes, mostly fine. A bit of cloud here and there, especially towards the east and northeast. Further south and west, holding on to those clearer skies for that little bit longer. Like I said, that rain in the far north does edge a bit further southwards across more parts of Scotland as we go overnight, with some of that rain pushing into Northern Ireland by the time we get to dawn tomorrow morning. But across England and Wales, staying dry and a fairly warm night for many places, temperatures holding up in the mid to high teens, especially in the towns and cities. The outbreaks of rain across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland, well, there will be a few more of them compared to today. A bit heavier, but still not a huge amount of rain for many places. Eastern parts of Scotland staying dry, and across England and Wales it's staying dry with a decent amount of sunshine, a bit brighter, sunnier than today across eastern parts, and here temperatures edging up a little bit with highs of around 29, possibly 30 Celsius. See you later.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for making GB News Radio such a huge success. Whether you're in the car, on the go, or listening at home, thank you for choosing us as your radio station.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M27 westbound is closed between junctions 11 and 10 in Fareham West. There is a collision on the M27 westbound between junctions 3 and 2 in Romsey, causing slow traffic. North of the border, the A720 westbound between the A702 Lothian-Burn junction and the A701 Straighton junction is congested following a collision. Across Wales, the A483 from Dolford to Newtown is affected by a collision. And on the trains, cross-country services have no trains between Torquay and Paignton. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans? Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, 9:30 on the 23rd of July, live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, there's going to be an early release review. The Prime Minister freezes the prison plan following fury over PC Andrew Harper's killers potentially walking free.
I've reprioritised. The public's priority is reducing cost of living pressures.
And the Prime Minister is cutting business rates by 20% for pubs, clubs and music venues. Is he the hospitality hero?
And should the wealthy pay more tax? Well, Gary Lineker is among 120 millionaires urging the government to hit the rich with even higher taxes.
And the defence funding feud continues. The former Armed Forces Minister Al Cairns declines a job in Andy Burnham's government because he says defence spending isn't fixed.
Every chief executive of every council and every government department, white. Every director of a department in Scotland, white.
Anna Sarwar accepts a trade minister job in the government, and he's made a peer, despite the Scottish Labour leader previously saying that the chamber must be abolished and replaced. Maybe he'll soon be out of a job.
Mosques under attack. The British Muslim Trust says security funding is taking too long, with 70 incidents at Muslim places of worship in the last year.
And the Glasgow Games go live. King Charles, Queen Camilla and the Prime Minister head to Scotland for the Commonwealth Games opening ceremony today.
I felt I was doing something against that so-and-so Hitler who was destroying our country.
That was the late RAF veteran George Johnson, who led the 617 Squadron Raid in World War II, as today Lincolnshire marks 90 years of the Bomber Command. Now, if you watch this programme and listen to this programme, you know that Miriam and I are not great authorities on sport, but neither of us...
Speak for yourself, Andrew. I know all about table tennis.
OK, but neither of us had any clue that the Commonwealth Games were starting in Glasgow today.
Yeah.
We just simply didn't know.
No, I mean, there has been a lot of other news, and there's been the World Cup, of course, but there hasn't been the same kind of fanfare about it as perhaps there used to be.
And it's partly because they were due to be held in Australia. Australia didn't want them, so Scotland took them on. The Prime Minister's going, the King's going, but honestly, I had no idea.
People don't seem to be as excited about athletics as they used to be. I wonder why.
No, and are they as excited about the Commonwealth? That's the other question.
Yes, that's also true. But Andy Burnham will be going, so maybe his first plane trip as Prime Minister. Do you think he'll rack up as many air miles as Keir Starmer? Flying to and from Manchester every week. And
while he's up there, can he talk? Tell us, is he going to drill baby drill in the North Sea?
That's true, yeah. Maybe he'll make a little trip to an oil rig on the way home. Well, we'd love to know what you think about all the topics we're discussing today. Send your views and comments to
gbnews.com/you'll save. But first, here's your 60-second news update with Tatiana Sanchez.
Good morning. The top stories. Prime Minister Andy Burnham has announced he will cut business rates by 20% for pubs, clubs and live music venues from next April. The government says the move will save the typical pub £1,100 next year from their tax bill. Breaking news this morning, a teenage girl and a woman in her 40s have both died in the incident at West Mersey Beach last night, Essex Police has confirmed. Essex Police also said a third person remains in hospital in a serious condition following the incident. The force said it was called to the beach after reports that several people had got into difficulty in the water near Seaview Avenue. Elsewhere, Britain's biggest water company has announced a hosepipe ban for 10.1 million customers as large parts of the country move closer to drought status. Thames Water said the restriction, also known as a temporary use ban, will come into effect at midday today. And the US and Saudi Arabia have signed a landmark deal that will reportedly allow the Gulf Kingdom to develop a civilian nuclear program. The US Energy Department announced the so-called Peaceful Nuclear Cooperation Agreement had been signed on Wednesday. Those are the latest headlines, more at the top of the hour.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, the Prime Minister has caused, frankly, chaos in the prison system because he's paused Labour's early prison release scheme. Remember, thousands of dangerous criminals were due to be released in September over the backlash that could have seen two of the killers of PC Andrew Harper set free halfway through their prison sentence. No, a third of the way through, I think.
Yes, that's right, this September. Well, PC Harper, of course, had been investigating a quad bike theft back in the summer of 2019 when the 28-year-old officer was killed after being caught in a tow rope attached to a car, and he was dragged for more than a mile on country roads and died at the scene.
So Number 10 is now reviewing the scheme after the officer's widow branded it deplorable that two of his killers could be released years before the end of their sentence. But the prisons are full. How are we going to tackle overcrowding? We heard the Chief Secretary of the Treasury telling Breakfast this morning that they're creating prison places at a record number, 3,200 in 2 years. The prison population is nearly 90,000. It's just not enough.
It is. I think 14,000 new places are due to open by 2030, and a new prison opened last year that was 1,500 places. It obviously is taking a long time, isn't it? But in the meantime, they've got this shortfall of places. This early release scheme was due to release, I think, around 5,000 prisoners over the next year from September. If they're going to stop the early release scheme, which I think there'll be massive public support for, I mean, 2,500 of those prisoners were rapists and paedophiles. So nobody wants them walking the streets. But on the other hand, what are they going to do if they do pause the early release scheme?
There are around 10,000 foreign prisoners in our jails. Deport a lot of them.
Yes.
That's what
they could do that. That would be a first start. I mean, it depends if we've got agreements with the countries where they're from. I mean, it's not, you know, all these things take a ridiculous amount of time, don't they? But that would be a logical answer. Well, we can now speak to former prison governor and Reform UK's Justice Advisor, Vanessa Frake. Vanessa, thank you so much for joining us this morning. How did you react to Andy Burnham's announcement that he's going to, for now, pause the early release scheme while he examines it further?
Well, like most of the rest of the country, I was absolutely delighted because of the imminent release of two of PC Harper's killers. But also, on the other hand, my heart goes out to the prison service, which now has to deal with the delay in releasing prisoners. There'll be absolute chaos. Many of those prisoners will already have their sentence plans, will have their release dates, will have done all of what was required of them to be released. But let's not forget, though, during the passage of the Sentencing Act 26, before it was put into law in March, opposition MPs, many, put in explicitly designed amendments to stop rapists, murderers, sex grooming gangs, sex offenders, and have them eliminated from the early release. And that was voted down by Labour politicians. So in all fairness, you sow what you reap. I can't believe that they didn't think that there would be a backlash, particularly, some high profile case like PC Harper's.
And it's staggering, isn't it, Vanessa, that that Labour thought couldn't see the wood for the trees, that trying to release somebody like PC Harper, when the law was passed after his sentencing called Harper's Law, to make it a mandatory life sentence for the killers of any emergency service workers. So how did they ever think the public were going to wear his killers being released early?
Well, only Keir Starmer can answer that question, because clearly, they were warned about it, they were told about it, and they did nothing about it. And, now the saint from the north has realised that public opinion is absolutely beyond furious with the thought of those two being released, and quite rightly so. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Vanessa, you ran a prison. They're overcrowded. What is the atmosphere like in these prisons?
Well, I think nowadays, Andrew, it's completely different, because you've got staff shortages, you've got prisoners 3 to a cell that are designed for 1, you've got long hours of bang up, sometimes 23 hours, you've got very little regime. And they're volatile, 10,500 assaults on prison officers over the last 12 months. I mean, the list is endless, and it will be the prison officers that will have to deal with the fallout, and prison governors will have to deal with the fallout of a delay in the early release scheme.
And Vanessa, do you think the government's doing enough to build new places? 1,500 opened last year. They are on course to open 14,000 new places by 2030, but that won't be soon enough to plug the gap caused by stopping this scheme. What do you think they should do in the meantime?
Well, I think there's many things that they can do. Like, Andrew said it straight away. We've got 10,500 foreign national prisoners languishing in our jails. We've just given 153 billion to Pakistan, and they're still refusing to take the leader of the grooming gang that has been released. Well, why are we giving them this money if they're going to refuse to take these sorts of people back to their country? It's just mind-blowing. But look, there are many disused army barracks, RAF bases, even ex-American bases that are just languishing and growing weeds. Why can't we use these?
And the foreign prisoners in jails, Vanessa, do they integrate? Does it become factional in behind bars with these foreign prisoners?
Yeah, it does. Many of them can't speak English, so there's a communication issue. They have different ways of looking at things in comparison to British prisoners. So yes, it does create. I mean, when I was at Wilmot Scrubs, because we covered Heathrow, I think at one point we had something like 60 to 65% foreign national prisoners. Wow. I mean, it's just ridiculous that, we just seem to be, instead of turning them around and taking them from wherever, we just seem to be costing the taxpayer millions and millions of pounds by keeping them in custody. To what aim?
Exactly. Well, Vanessa Frake is former prison governor and Reform UK's Justice Advisor. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
I think they've got to get into the foreign prisoner issue. They really do.
Yeah, it would be an obvious first step.
10,500, if there are return agreements. We know we've got a return agreement with Albania. Some of those prisoners will be Albanian. Get them out.
One of the arguments against that has always been that in some countries those people would not serve sentences at all.
Right.
They'd be released, they would be free, they would not be punished. And so for the sake of justice, the British justice system has preferred that those people actually be behind bars in the UK rather than punished for their deeds, rather than free in another country. There's certainly a moral argument for that, but not a financial one.
But also, by them remaining in prison, it's meaning that very dangerous prisoners are being released early, who should not be released early
If you
at all.
don't have a shortage of prison places, then perhaps that's a good reason, but at the moment it really isn't. And I was researching this morning, and our prisons have been operating above capacity for 20 years.
Yeah, it's been a crisis waiting to happen for a very long time. Now, still ahead, Lincolnshire will mark 90 years of the Bomber Command today, and GB News will be the service of remembrance.
But coming up next, oil prices have risen for a 5th day in a row as the conflict in the Middle East goes on. So we're asking, how long will it be until the price at the pump skyrockets again?
First, though, here's your forecast for European destinations weather forecast.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
There's some mixed weather across parts of Europe at the moment. We have a heat wave affecting western parts. This will ease into the weekend, but for the time being, temperatures for some around 5 to 10 degrees above average. Some places getting into the high 30s, low 40s perhaps. Eastern Spain into North Africa as well. Then further east, well, across parts of Greece and nearby nations, we have some intense thundery downpours. 75 millimetres of rain in just a few hours. Large hail, gusty winds could cause some problems.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Nana Queer, weekends from 3 p.m.
This is really exciting. We've got 1 million people living with dementia in this country, and about 65%, 70% of them have Alzheimer's disease. This is a condition where a protein called amyloid beta builds up in plaques within the brain and interferes with the connection of nerve cells. It's a cruel disease, as I know you're aware. It robs families of the relative that they once loved, the personality that they knew, and it's the leading cause of death in this country. So, numbers are only increasing as the ageing population grows. But here we have in phase 3 clinical trials, which is the last stage of trials before a regulatory body approves it for use, which appears to clear some of these plaques within a few weeks. Now, that's really exciting.
GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's Newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
What does this kind of day mean to you, kind of coming and doing this every year?
Well, I feel that I'm doing this for my wife because she used to sell poppies properly, really, and I used to help her for 20-odd years. And I feel like I'm doing it for her, really. But it is nice to think that everybody appreciate what we did for being in the forces.
But tell me about your service, because you got sent out to the Far East, didn't you?
Yes. I just got engaged because I didn't think I was going to get called up, but then I did.
In your jacket here, you've got one medal for national service and one for that Hong Kong medal for that.
To be honest, I was 18 years old. And I was very excited about going. It was an adventure to me.
The People's Channel. Britain's Newsroom. Weekday mornings from 9:30.
Weight loss jabs could help children as young as 6 who are living with obesity. When did we start saying living with obesity? Can we not say obese children? Is that not politically correct? Well, delighted to be joined now by Sarah LeBrock, Director of All About Obesity. Sarah, I think a lot of people will feel slightly uneasy about children getting on these jabs. simply because we sort of expect, I don't know, diets to be managed by parents.
Yeah, I can totally understand why people would think that. But the point we're not talking about just overweight children here. We're talking about children living with obesity. And interestingly, you say, why do we say living with obesity? It's because they're living with a chronic condition.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Here at GB News, we made a promise to tell your stories.
And on the 6th of August, we're marking 5 years of doing exactly that.
Celebrate with us by having your say. Join in the debates live on TV and radio.
And meeting your favourite presenters across the country, from Leeds to Aberdeen, from Belfast to Barry Island.
Plus, join me in Essex for our biggest live show of the year. Scan the QR code or visit gbnews.com/celebrate. Terms and conditions apply.
Good morning, it's 12 minutes to 10. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Oil prices have returned to levels not seen since the beginning of June because as the conflict intensifies between Iran and America. The contributing editor critic Chris Bayliss joins us. This is going to hit us in the petrol pump pretty soon, isn't it?
Yes, it will. Well, so we've seen a rise back up again as... well, there's been a new wave of fighting in the Gulf area, but the real worry that we've seen as well is the fact that the Houthis, who are a militia group based in Yemen, who control the Red Coast areas of Yemen, have been brought into the conflict. They are aligned to the Iranians. So since the conflict started, the Saudis have been routing an awful lot of their fuel out of the Red Sea route, so they pipe it up to Jeddah, to the port of Yanbu, and that's gone up from about 1 million barrels a day in normal times to nearly 4 million barrels a day now. Now that the Houthis are in the fray, the Bab al-Mandab, which is a choke point similar to Hormuz that is between Yemen and Eritrea, Somalia on the African coast. It's another point at which they can throttle anything coming through, and the markets have seen that happening, and everybody's panicking. For us in Europe, yeah, we are likely to see... we've had a bit of relief at the pumps over the last few weeks, and we are likely to see that going back up. Although it's softened a little bit this morning. It was up to sort of $94 a barrel last night, but down to sort of 89, 91 today. So we are likely to see that. But the big worry for us in Europe is gas prices. So during the summer, generally, especially the second half of the summer, we see everybody in Europe trying to fill up their stock for winter. Now, that hasn't happened so much. Firstly, because we've had a very, very hot summer, and everybody in Europe's been using their air conditioning, which sort of increased demand. And because we've got all of this going on in the Middle East, a lot of people have taken the assumption that as we move toward the end of the year, we're likely to see prices come down, which we wouldn't normally see in winter, because we're expecting things to go back to normal. And suddenly, as of this week, I think a lot of people have smelt the coffee a little bit and have realised that actually, no, we might not be back in a world where Qatar is shipping out LNG for us all to use by the fourth quarter of the year. And suddenly everybody's deciding, oh gosh, we do need to fill up our stockages now. Germany's still at about 45% full. We're less relevant in this because we've got so little storage space. So what the Europeans need to do is bring their prices up to the point at which they can start attracting supplies that would otherwise be going to China, Japan, South Korea. We're not at those prices yet, but it's going to happen. And for us in Britain, this is critical because of our bizarre electricity price cap system, where the trading prices 3 or 4 months in the past, i.e. now, are what will shape the prices. So we know that it's going to go up. It's gone up again in July. We know it's going up again 5% or so in October. Now we're in the period, we're moving into the period now where the prices for the next settlement period are going to be based on the trading prices now. So sadly, I think we're going to see that going up again in the next price period, sort of beginning at the end of the year.
And if this crisis, if the fighting continues, starts again, goes on for another couple of months, as it did in the initial period, does the world still have stocks of oil? Are we as resilient as we were when the crisis started back on the 28th of February, or are you concerned that stocks are running low?
We are OK in Britain and in Europe in terms of oil for our petrol, because that comes from other places. prices.
But on a world...
On a world market, so the prices will go up, but we're not going to run out of that here. The one thing where we are a little bit vulnerable is jet fuel, because we are so much of what we use here comes from Kuwait. As we've seen earlier in the week, there was fighting. A lot of infrastructure that was damaged. Their water infrastructure in that part of the world, they're very dependent on desalination. The Iranians hit that, and some refineries. So we're more vulnerable on that. We're not going to